welcome to the BBC's match fishing programme's Hooked. This year we're at Longleat, home of the 6th Marquess of Bath. And we're fishing on 2 lakes out of 3 designed in the 16th century by a man called Capability Brown. They're reputedly full of fish, but we'll find out as we go along. But the rules: we fish for 2 3/4 hours, 5 winners from 5 heats to go forward to the final, plus the top-weighted runner-up. We also have a special prize for the person who catches the most number of fish. This will help to give us a guide as we go through the various matches. But at the moment, to talk about it and to tell us about the venue, Pete Thompson.
Hello, Jack.
Pete, we're not fishing here all the time, though.
No, this is one particular spot that we're fishing on the top lake, and in subsequent weeks we'll be moving down to the middle lake and then back up to the top lake. So it's going to give us a mixture, and instead of having certain pegs producing throughout the 6 weeks, we're never going to know where the winner's going to come from. But already, with just half an hour of the first match gone, it's looking very interesting. We've got a lot of fish coming out, but we've also lads choosing to fish different methods. We've got one lad on the pole, we've seen Ivan Marks on the feeder, and he's gone back to the float now, but he could well go onto the bomb again later on. And we've got 3 or 4 fishing the float. So it's going to be very, very interesting, because these guys don't yet know which is going to produce. And of course, in subsequent weeks, the lads fishing the next heats aren't going to know, because they're going to be on a different stretch of water.
Yes, and they're going to have to find out the method that suits them best.
That's right, on the day, without watching the previous week's heats.
Well, shall we go and have a look at the lads
Let's
that
have a
we're
look
going to see today?
And see who's fishing the match today.
Alan Mayer. This is a lad that demonstrated the pole fishing method on the barn last year.
Yes, and surprisingly enough, Jack, on the peg that he's on, I would have thought would have lent itself to using the pole, because he's got something like 12 or 13 foot of water. But for some unknown reason, maybe it's a possibility of the bottom of the lake is actually shelving right down. He's no flat surface to present his bait on. But anyway, he's decided he wants to use a rod and reel. But he's obviously concentrating very hard. I would be amazed if he didn't try the pole sometime during the match.
Well, he's got it all set up next to him. I did notice that when I was up there.
Yes. And if things keep going as they are at the moment, I think he's 4 or 5 fish and he's behind. I would think he's going to have to give himself a chance and go on the pole.
Do you think he'll have fed close in as well as feeding?
Oh, there's no doubt he will have put the feed in ready, just for the sakes of it, and ready for going on it if this doesn't work.
Stan Peacher.
Yes, an angling journalist from Leicester, and if you remember rightly, Jack, gave Max Winters a good run for his money in the final last year on the BAM.
That's right.
Good angler and loves this type of fishing. He's using the Wagler, similar to Max, and he's keeping up with him. He's 8 or 9 fish already. So at the present time, it's between Stan and Max, and this is what they like. They like pressure. And if somebody's catching next to them, see him have a quick look round, then he's watching what Max is doing and calculating in his own mind how many he needs to overhaul him. And
I suppose they do know when they're sliding them in along approximately what weight they've got, even if they know the numbers, they know the size of the fishes, particularly on the people to the left and right of them.
They'll never admit it.
But they do.
But they've an idea.
Yeah.
They won't be far wrong. If you ask them truthfully what weight the guy next to him has got, then he won't be far out when he gives you an estimation.
I like people like him who concentrate. He doesn't half concentrate on the job, doesn't he?
Yes, it's just occasionally he will turn to see what the other lads are doing.
Max Winters, that was last year's Hooked winner.
That's right, champion at the present time. Won it on the River Bann with over 40 pounds of roach and bream. He's a bricklayer from Gloucester. And of course, being down at Longleat, it's fairly home ground for him, and he's been down practising quite a lot. And at the present time, he's doing quite well. He's fishing a Wagler float about 4 rod lengths out, and I think he's got about 10 fish at the moment, Jack.
Well, he caught the first fish of the morning, that I do know.
Yes.
I stood watching him when he did it. But he's not been pulling in anything very big. His last fish was probably his biggest one, I think.
Well, he's taking his time with what he does catch, because obviously one lost fish at this stage could cost him the match.
He was certainly coming in very gently with everything he's had on now. He's, for the size of them, very, very slow.
Don't forget, they've also got to be very careful. There are a lot of big fish in that lake, and on that initial strike, they don't know what it's going to be. And they're so fit, the fish are, that you haven't a clue at first what size they are.
But he's obviously going to be one of our favourites again this year.
I would think so. He's doing well at the moment anyway.
I believe there's a complete contrast with Ivan because he was ledgering when we first started.
Yes, I think he was going after a bonus fish early on, maybe one of the big bream. But it came unstuck, he had nothing, and I don't think he's got any fish at the moment anyway. He's now gone onto the float, so he's following the lead given by Max next to him and one or two of the others as well. We'll have to wait and see with Ivan.
But you know, he's given Max a fairly good start.
10 fish is a lot.
It is.
It's a lot, but there again, if he does hook into one of the big bream or something like that, then he's in with a shout, isn't he?
And purchase.
Yes, on peg 5. And can we just mention here that Anne is the first ever ladies international champion, having won a title in Ireland last year on a specially run competition, which is now going to become an annual event. So she's the first ever winner of it. Only 17, but what a fine angler. And she's she lives in the Doncaster area and been fishing with the Barnsley lads and people from that area, and we know how good they are, don't we?
Well, Tom Pickman's girlfriend.
That's right, yes, and you'll see, watching her during the competition, a lot of little things that Tom does that Anne's picked up as well.
Good. I know she's got a rod tip in the water.
Yes, what she's doing is she's sinking the line to stop the drift, taking the line and pulling the float under.
She's got a few fish, and her and Ivan had Max had the first 2 fish.
Yes, so she'll be quite pleased with that, because I know beforehand that she was worried that she wasn't going to catch.
In other words, you think she was a bit outclassed with the men?
I think she had a feeling she might be, but now she's got a few fish in the net, it won't worry her. Won't worry her at all.
And she looks as if she knows what she's doing the last, doesn't she?
Oh yes, she's a good angler.
This is Dave Brogden.
Yes, one I don't think you've seen before, Jack.
No, I haven't.
Comes from Preston and represented England in the World Championships on the Newry Canal last year. Had a bit of a grueler, as did everybody on that particular match. But as you can see, he's using a pole, and this is the method that he loves to do, fishing the canals up in Lancashire and Staffordshire. And he is an excellent pole angler. And he's chosen, as I say, to fish the pole and the bloodworm. He's fishing at 10 metres, 5 or 6 foot depth, just checking the bait there, see that it's not been interfered with. And from the peg he's on, I would have thought he's got a fair chance, but I would have thought he would like a little bit more water.
Because it shells there and gets a bit shallow up.
It's starting to come shallower on the end of the match length, and he's on peg 6, so we have got a little bit of shallow water up there.
Do we know how many fish he's got?
He's stuck there on the pole, and obviously he's going to stick it out for the 2 3/4 hours, and who knows what can happen later on. He's, I think, 4 or 5 fish at the moment.
4 or 5.
So he's not out of contention yet.
It's a lovely method, though, the way they sit there and hold it, and you know, straight up in the air. It's a method I tried, and I really enjoyed fishing with a pole.
It's back to basics, really, isn't it?
It is really. You're really in contact with them there.
But of course, now we're looking at 10 metre poles, 11 metre poles, and purely and simply because of the fact that they're made of carbon fibre, they are light enough to go to that length.
Even though the actual weight on the end of the pole is enormous when you get hold of one.
Yes, it's something like 2.5 pound in weight when it's all put down together, but when it's actually extended at that length, you can say something like 10 times that weight. So he's talking about 20 pound he's holding in his hand.
Alan Mayer, 4 fish fairly early on.
Yes, hello Jack. First quarter of an hour, I suppose. But it's slowed down an awful lot now. Because I've got the dam wall to my right, I think I've no space to draw any fish from. And Stanley's going quite well in the next peg, and he's not going to let anything pass. I'm going to struggle, I think, now till the end of the match.
Well, you've got a good hour to go. I hope things pick up for you.
Yeah, well, I could have a go on the pole, but it's sloping away very, very gradually. Every metre out, you're going a foot deeper, and it's not made for pole fishing.
Because you are a pole man.
Well, I like to fish the pole.
Well, all the best anyway. Nice to see you again.
Thanks, Jack.
Well, Peter Bundy here is the water bailiff and vermin control. Is it officer?
Vermin control, just vermin controller, Jack.
Yeah.
Just vermin controller.
Peter, tell me something about the water here.
Well, Jack, today's, we've always mentioned that we're fishing the top lake today. Number 1 will be the deepest peg, and number 6 is the shallowest peg. In this particular lake, what I would expect this afternoon is roach and perch mainly, but we might have the odd bonus fish in as far as a nice big tench. We haven't seen any yet, but we're still hoping.
What about bream?
There are a few bream in here, but they very, very rarely show. Say a few, there are a lot of bream in here, but they very rarely show.
What about the water temperature? Because some of the lads earlier were telling me that it stays pretty constant here with it being stream fed.
You're quite right there, Jack. Yeah, we've got a very heavy stream coming. Well, the spring rises are actually just above half a mile above the village of Horningsham, which is overall, I suppose, about a mile away. And that is a constant spring fed throughout the year, summer and winter. And being spring fed water, the water temperature from that spring wouldn't rise at any more than 10 degrees centigrade. That is of great benefit to us throughout summer and winter particularly, because it does mean that the fish feed throughout the year rather than just through the summer.
Yeah, yeah. Do you get a lot of people here fishing? It's a very popular sport?
Very, very popular venue. It is a very popular venue. All our matches that we hold at Longleat, 60 peggers, all sold out. The next two are sold out already, and that is for well, the second one is a month's time, sold out completely.
Do you fish yourself?
Yes, I do.
What about the today? Do you think the weights will be really worth taking today?
Well, at the moment, Jack, it appears that the weights, unfortunately, are down. Although yesterday it fished well, but today, for some reason, they're just not having any.
Well, they're catching one or two, you know, but they don't seem to be of the biggest fishes.
That's true, but it's not up to the usual Longleat standards. You know, normally we'd expect to be catching much more than what we are.
But over the weeks, we should catch one or two of the biggies.
I sincerely hope that we get in amongst them, Jack.
Well, thanks very much, Peter. Nice to meet you.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Jack.
Well, Ivan Marks is getting to the stage now where he's going to have to do something particularly special if he's going to get into contention with Maxie Winters and Stan Peacher. Ivan started on the float, and I've just had a quick word with him. Decided he'd go on the bomb to pick up a bonus fish because he reckons that one good fish could put him in the running. And he's now decided that he's going to go on the bomb with an hour to go on the ledger and stay on that and hope that one big fish comes in and puts him in the lead late in the match. Next to him we've got Anne Purchase, and Anne's acquitting herself very, very well. She's got 5 or 6 fish at the moment, although she's way behind the two leaders. She's still doing well out of a peg, which hasn't produced as we would have expected it to. Plenty of support behind her, particularly boyfriend Tom Pickering, and there's the leader of the Barnsley Blacks team, Dickie Clegg, who we'll see in later weeks. And right on the end, Dave Brogden. He's staying out on the pole. He's decided a 10-metre line is where he's going to stay, fishing the bloodworm, and who knows, he's 5 or 6 fish at the moment. All he needs is one big fish, and with that pole, don't you worry, he'll be able to handle it. A 3 or 4 pounder would put him right at the top.
Well, things have gone a bit quiet in the second half of the first half, but we still caught a few fish. The two leaders are on peg 2, Stan Peacher with 14 fish, and Max Winter with 13. On peg 1, Alan Mayer has 5. On peg 5, Anne Purchase has 7. And on 6, Dave Brogden has 6. But the surprise of the day is my pal, Ivan Marks, hasn't caught a fish.
On my trips around waters, I see a lot of anglers, particularly pleasure anglers, doing things wrong. And one of the major problems is that they go to a water haphazardly, not knowing what to expect to catch or whether indeed they're going to catch at all. And a question then arises of reading the water correctly. And to help me explain a little bit more, with me I've got former world champion Dave Thomas. Dave, reading the water is a very necessary part of angling, is it not?
It is, yes, Pete.
Now, can you give us an idea what we mean by reading the water?
A lot of it comes with experience, but first of all, I think you need to know as much about the venue that you're proposing to fish to start with, you know, the type of fish that are in there. And then it boils down to conditions on the day. This would dictate how you would approach the situation.
By
dependent
that,
on
you mean
weather conditions,
yes, temperatures,
any sudden change in temperature. On a river, for instance, the first thing I would look at would be the actual flow, the speed of the flow, where I would expect to catch fish on the day. Also, any natural feature. You know, fish are easily frightened. They like to swim or stay near any natural feature like a weed bed or an overhanging tree or bush. These are always holding places for fish. And
consequently, because they feel more secure in these places, apart from the fact that it's a source of food, natural food as well, they will feed more freely.
Right.
So, in other words, if you were fishing a river situation, you got a willow tree at the far side, you would obviously cast as near to it as you could.
Because they're going there for the cover anyway,
that's
aren't
right.
they, the
So
fish? You know they're there.
That's right. That's one aspect of it. And then it's all down to temperature and conditions on the day. Temperature is one of the biggest single factors which would decide how fish feed on that particular day that you're fishing. And so you need to take into consideration any recent change in temperature, like frost the night before. If it's the first frost for several nights, then the fish are going to be very, very reluctant to feed.
Don't bother going.
And so, well, no, it can be just as much a challenge on a difficult day, provided that the fish are prepared to respond to some extent. Then there can be just as much satisfaction in catching 4 pound of fish on a difficult day as catching 20 pound of fish on a good day when the fish are feeding.
So then we know how to attack the water when we've read it. Now, I know that one of your major concerns is that a lot of anglers don't get things right, do they? They don't set the stall out correctly to catch the fish.
Exactly, yeah. There's so much to bring together in angling. I think it's far more complicated than people realise. And
can we quickly go through how you would set up?
Yeah,
looking at a lake like this.
Exactly, yeah. In this situation, I would invariably set up, or anywhere I'm fishing for that matter, so that everything is to hand. I've got to be able to fish from that one position and operate smoothly, you know, throughout the 5 hours of a match.
You don't want to be reaching behind
it's
or
essential
stretching or anything like that.
I don't want to be bending, reaching for everything. I like to set things out and possibly spend 5 or 10 minutes doing this, you know, before the match or before even pleasure fishing. It's essential to the match angler, but it makes good sense to the pleasure angler as well.
And it also makes it look easier.
And it makes it look easier, yeah.
Right.
I mean, so, as
and
you
if
know,
it looks easy, it's becoming easier.
That's it. So many things.
So we've got the rod rest laid out so that your rod is actually to hand.
Everything
and you can
is
put it down, can't
to
you,
hand.
straight away.
I can pick the rod up, I can put it down, I can reach my landing net, I can drop the fish in the keep net.
Yes, I noticed that you use a bait apron. And you've become known as somebody who always uses a bait apron because you always stand anyway, don't you, when you're fishing a match?
I invariably stand.
So your bait's there to hand as well?
Exactly, everything is to hand, the catapult, the bait, without literally moving. I want to be able to operate from this one position and get into a good rhythm.
You can stand there for 5 hours fishing a match.
I can reach everything I'm likely to need in that 5 hours. I don't want to be climbing up and down the bank.
So first of all, read the water correctly. Secondly, make things easy for yourself.
Exactly.
Fine. Yeah. Thanks very much, Dave. Peg 1, Alan Mayer, and Alan now has got a predicament where he's so far behind. He's got to really hope that he picks into one big fish in the last 15 minutes or so. He's there turning round. I think he's lost a bit of interest. I think he knows he's too far behind to do any good. So Alan, for this year, I think, is out of the Hook series. Pegs 2 and 3, but meanwhile, and first of all, we'll start with Stan Peacher. Stan has 17 fish, and he is tying in the lead with Max Winters, who's on the next peg to him. They've stuck it out on the Wagler all the way through, and they've obviously read the water correctly, as we were talking to Dave Thomas about before, and they realised that the only chance they'd got was to go out and keep picking up smaller fish all the time. Both of them now are on 17 fish, and the winner is obviously going to come from either pegs 2 or peg 3.
Dave Brogden, you've struggled along today.
Yes, it has been a struggle today. They're just not responding like I thought they would have done. I started on the pole because in practice I cut every time I fish with it. Now today, whether it's been the disturbance on the bank or what, the fish just haven't wanted to settle on the ground bait that I've put in. I've picked up fish at regular intervals, but never on the bottom where I wanted them to be. They've been fish that have been moving through, and I've caught them on the drop, as we say, and without ever really connecting with one on my ground bait.
So a disappointing day altogether.
Well, it's been disappointing. Yeah, you expect to catch, and after doing so well in practice, I really expected to catch, and I thought that the pole would have been the way rather than the rod and line.
Well, bad luck, Dave. Better luck next time, eh?
Well, let's hope so, yeah.
Okay.
Right at the beginning of this match, I think most people would have put some money on Maxi Winters going through to the final and possibly doing the double and winning the championship again. He started off catching fish very, very quickly, but it was soon evident that Stan Peacher wasn't going to let him get away with it. Stan soon caught him up, and in fact now is 3 or 4 fish in front. We'll have to wait for the weigh-in, obviously, to find out who is the eventual winner, but for my money, Stan Peacher is winning at the moment.
Alan Mayer on peg 1 with 6 fish. Alan, can we see your 6 fish?
Six of the smallest roach in Longleat.
Eight ounce dead.
8 ounces dead. Disappointing, Alan.
Yep, he's ready.
Stan Peacher, peg number 2, 21 fish. Stan, would you bring them up, please?
£4 11 ounce.
£4, 11 ounces for Stan Peacher. Max Winder with 19 fish. Max, could we see yours, please?
£2.13. £2 13 ounce.
£2, 13 ounces for Max Winter. Ivan Marks on peg number 4. Let's see what you've got to weigh in, Ivan, please.
I've got to be careful, this is a big one and it bites like. Oh,
Good Lord, what did you catch that on?
well, I caught it on a bear hook. But nobody thought about trying it, but you only got to think, where were we? On the safari park, and that's what we're catching.
In
12
fact,
ounces ringing wet.
and in fact, you caught nothing.
Nothing, Jack, no. It's a bad day today for me. I don't know why. You know,
That's your lucky charm.
well, that's it. Teddy's brought me no luck. But,
So you drowned him.
yes, I've beaten him.
This year's Ladies International Champion and purchase. And would you bring your fish? Let's have a look.
£1, 1 ounce.
£1, 1 ounce for and purchase. Bit disappointing now. Not really.
No,
Of course it was.
It wasn't. I enjoyed it. Been good fishing.
I wouldn't have called it good fishing.
Well, it's been interesting. Could have caught a few more, I think.
Dave Brogden with 6 fish. Dave, come have a look at yours, please. Not a mighty lot.
No.
£10 ounces.
10 ounces for Dave Brogden. Well, heat 1 winner today, Stan Peacher. Stan,
Hello, Joe.
what did you do that was different to win this competition?
Basically, I've fished for roach throughout the match. That's all I've gone for, just...
And that's all you
right.
caught?
That's right.
Show me how you did it.
I've used a Wagler float, quite a long one, to beat the surface drag and the ripple. I've had nearly all the shot locking the float, and then just a few spaced out...
Dust shot?
In between dust shot and number 6s between the float and the hook, so the bait falls through the water naturally at the same speed as the loose feed that I was putting in by catapult.
Just to show that the fish were feeding mid-water rather than deep?
They were. I caught 75% of the fish on what we call on the drop.
On the drop?
Yeah.
Anyway, congratulations. It's nice to see you win again, because you won your first heat in Ireland last year as well, didn't you?
That's right, yeah.
Good to see you. Look forward to seeing you in the final.
Thank you.
In the meantime, Peter, what about the water today?
Didn't fish as we might have expected it to, but there again, it has been closed for a couple of weeks and the fish haven't got the feed going in, so we've got to re-educate them into feeding on anglers' baits. But if you look at it, Stan's weight of £4.11 was only £2 in front of Max Winters, and with the large fish that we've got in here,
Welcome back to Longleat and heat 2 of Hooked. Today we fished the middle lake. Conditions are a little bit worse than they were last week. We've forecast rain and it's a bit blustery and windy. But the anglers will like that as it puts a bit of ripple on the water. The rules of the competition, we fish for 2 3/4 hours, winners to go forward to the final, plus the top weight runner-up. Alongside that, we have a competition for the angler who catches the most fish. But to bring us up to date and give us the details of who is leading at the moment, Pete Thompson. Peter.
Morning, Jack.
Who's winning at the moment?
On this particular match, we've got a very, very even situation in as much as we've got an equal depth all the way through. We've got a wonderful stretch of water at this particular spot, and it looks as though it's going to be a very even contest. Now, last week, of course, Stan Peachy went through as the winner with £4.11, and the best runner-up was Maxie Winters with £2.13.
Of course, Stan also has the most number of
Stan's
fish.
also got the most number of fish, so he's got a double header at the moment, yes. But today, could see those two weights utterly smashed, and I think all 6 anglers have got a good chance of going well over the £4 anyway.
Well, we hope so. Maybe we'll get a bigger fish or 2 as well.
I think we will, because there are good tench in this water, and of course, just one of those is a bonus, and that could put everything out of sight.
OK, let's have a look at the lads. Michael Fitzpatrick, obviously one of the Irish contingent.
Yes, Irish international, fished for Ireland on a number of occasions and represented them last year on the New Canal at home. But unfortunately, on the normally prolific waters of Ireland, it failed to produce. Just noticing there, I think the stance is catching, Jack.
Yes.
But
the pouncing stance.
Yes, let's point out really that that's to flatten the water so that they can see the float better. The lower they get to the water,
the less glare.
The less glare, and also the more they can see the float in the water. But he's on the end peg. He's on peg 1, and he's just on the edge of the deeper water now. That could act one of two ways. The water's being pushed up that way, the feed's up there, the bigger fish could well be up that end. So we look towards a larger fish later on.
I went and had a little chat with Colin Perry first thing this morning. I found him a very outgoing lad, full of information, and chatted away to me as if he had known me all his life. I know he met him yesterday.
Yes, he's a grand lad, tattle wholesaler from Mansfield. And the nice part about this is, this particular heat, Colin is fishing against Dave Thomas, and those two are the best of friends. And there's a little bit of needle and rival between the two of them. He's having a laugh there with somebody, but he's a good angler, particularly on the rivers, but he's getting a little better on the lakes, and he's enjoying it down on these lakes.
Ian Heaps, I've not seen this lad fishing before.
Former world champion and a tattle advisor with a firm in Matlesfield in Cheshire. One of the better lads at teaching other people how to fish, Jack. He's done a load of videos actually, and very, very good at informing anglers on the right and correct way of fishing. Extrovert, and I've no doubt we'll hear a lot of him before the series is finished.
That's the lad who were taking the mickey out of a little bit when we first arrived.
Well, we've had to stand him on a box actually, so that we can see him. Yes,
that's right. He's a bit short,
but he's not short in angling prowess. So,
well, Dave Thomas, I know Dave well, of course. He former world champion, isn't he?
Yes, so we've got two former world champions, and in fact, Dave Thomas, I would think, is the only world champion never to have been beaten in a World Championships, because he wasn't selected the year after, so was unbeaten as a world champion.
Yes, he didn't fish in Ireland this year,
no,
did he?
Didn't.
Wasn't
He didn't. Taking a fish there. See how we did last week about everything being to hand, and that shows perfectly how everything's there and ready for Dave. And he's got 8 fish now, so he's obviously well in the hunt. And it's fishing well straight from the off today.
This is Clive Smith. I always enjoy watching Clive fishing. He had 4 very quickly this morning.
I think what you enjoy, Jack, is seeing that total concentration, isn't it?
I love that.
Every time we watch Clive, he's in that sort of semi-crouched position. Just look at that. He's not missing a thing.
He's like a coiled spring there, ready to explode.
He is, yes. Yeah, he explodes, but...
That was an unusual strike, if I may say so. He did it to the side rather than, like most lads, straight up and down.
Well, if we have a look later on, the wind is pushing the surface over to the left, so he's actually picking the line up that way instead of trying to pick the line up the opposite way.
Neil Dibble. This looks a young boy, this one. How old is he?
He's only 21. Welsh international. So we've got everybody this week. We've got England internationals, Irish internationals and Welsh internationals.
I notice he's wearing an eye shade, like when we were talking about Michael Fitzpatrick, trying to cut the glare off the water. Don't any of them wear dark glasses?
Some do. Some like dark glasses. In fact, there's Ivan Marks, one of last week's competitors. He'll be able to see the float just as well as Neil. But some people like to take the light off the top of their eyes, and that's a perfect way of doing it.
Where are you from?
I live in near Boyle, County Roscommon, which is in not quite the west of Ireland, probably West Midlands, could describe it as.
Good fishing country, though.
Yeah, the Shannon system. Excellent bream fishing, blood fishing, quite a lot of tench about, and the roach have just begun to show up there now in quite considerable numbers, you know.
How are you finding this lake this morning?
Well, it's the fishing. The methods are basically similar to Irish methods, but a little bit refined, of course. And of course, their fish are that bit shyer and harder to catch. But It's hard going this morning. I've had 5 fish until now, I think, and they've all been hard got.
Well, I'll leave you to it, Michael. Keep going.
Thank you very much.
You're not that far behind at the moment.
Well, I hope to get a few more.
Ivan, I watched one of your lads yesterday tidying up after he had finished practicing.
Yeah.
And he was so immaculate in the way he put his stuff away and wrapped everything up. I was amazed, actually.
Well, you know, really speaking, like, we are professionals, and we get the water, but we can lose it very easy by leaving litter. You know, the farmer can easily turn around and say, you're off. And it's the same with the people, you know, about the swans. These lads don't sort of leave line around and shot. And the whole thing is, it's the pleasure anglers. What's the unfortunate? You know, they go on the Norfolk Broads, never been fishing, because they're on a boat. They take £10 line, leave it in the weeds, the swans come along, and of course the anglers get the blame. You know, really speaking, we're trying to do everything, you know, to not damage the swans. You know, there's certain things.
Of course, there are other birds as well that would suffer.
Oh
over
yeah,
this.
there's the coots and the moorhen, all the wildlife, and we try to look after them. You know, it's like our fishing. We catch the fish, we've got the keep nets to keep them alive to weigh in. We put them back alive, and we look after them. And we get sort of...
Well, it does your sport good. I mean, it's your own sport. If you destroyed it, there'll be nothing there.
No. It's like tattle shops, like, over the country sort of thing, nowadays, that the Spencers for shots, you know, I've got one while I carry around with me. And, you know, we can't spill the shots, you know, it's took out, the lid's took off, and when we've took a shot out, we just close it.
So there's no lead left lying around at all?
There's no lead lying around. It's people who don't go into right tattle shops and various other things. You know, they go into pet shops.
So if you had to give advice to the local angler who goes for the weekend, it would be tidy up, clean up, and leave nothing lying about?
Nothing, because it's us lads who's going to get the blame. You know, we go on matches, and certain associations will have fined us, you know, for leaving litter. And we get pinched because somebody has got to go, you know, round cleaning up after us, and they won't paying. So, and there's other matches, they will not weigh you in, and there might be tins, plastic bags laying on the bank from the day before, but the match anglers will clean the peg up.
I'm glad you do, Ivan, and I hope you continue to do so, and everybody else who angles.
The lake that we're fishing today is quite shallow. There's a good concentration of roach, perch, and quite a lot of tench, although there's none showed up to yet today. Yesterday I had a good catch using the maggot. So that's what I've concentrated on today. But up to yet I'm only catching small fish, whereas I can see one or two of the competitors who I know are caster fishing are catching better fish, so I may change my mind and go on to caster a little bit later on. Although I am catching at the minute, so while I'm catching, I'm sticking to it. There's a lot of fish to be taken on the drop, but they keep coming in and out in spells.
You're working very hard there, I must say. Is this tree behind you bothering you at all?
Well, it's a little bit difficult, I must admit. I've had to move a little bit to my left to be able to cast at all. I normally like to cast over my right shoulder, but obviously with that there, I've got to cast from the left side.
Well
but,
done.
We're managing.
Keep going. You've not got a bad number of fish up to now.
Peg 4 and Dave Thomas, who's something of a gamble in as much as he's casting further than anybody else using a larger float, in fact a new innovation, a feeder float. He's gone with the maggot and he's sticking with the maggot, and at the present moment in time he's got 14 fish and he's in the lead as far as the number of fish is concerned. On Peg 5, Clive Smith's fishing a depth of 4 or 5 foot, about 3 rod lengths out. But whereas Dave Thomas is using the maggot, Clive's decided to go straight from the off with caster, and it's paid off to a great extent because although he's behind in numbers, it's a fair bet that the weight is better. He's picking up far better fish, better quality fish than Dave Thomas is. And indeed, there we see Clive playing a fish gently, and I would say half a pound, 3/4 of a pound. Obviously, the caster is going to be the significant bait today. That is going to pick better quality fish up than the maggot. And peg 6, the youngest competitor on the match length, Neil Dibble from Wales. He watched early on as Dave Thomas started taking fish and went with him on the maggot, and then saw Clive Smith taking better quality fish on the caster, so has now changed and he's fishing the caster as well. He's 8 fish at the moment, but there's no doubt that he's on a swim, which is a little bit sheltered, more sheltered than the others, and a fair bet that he's going to pick better quality fish up later on.
Well, to go with the wind, we've now had a little bit of rain. But to bring up the date at the halfway stage, starting with peg 6, Neil Dibble has 8 fish. Clive Smith has 11 fish. Dave Thomas has 14, but he's had a bit better fish. He seems to be getting the odd big one. Ian Heaps has 8. Colin Perry has 15, but they've tended to be a bit on the smaller side, Collins. Michael Fitzpatrick has 8 fish, but things are starting to warm up a little bit now, and we should get better results in the second half. Ian, I watched you at the beginning. You put a tremendous amount of ground bait in.
That's right, Jack. I put about 6 balls on the 10-metre line with the intentions of fishing it on the pole. And I put about 10 balls farther out on the Wagler line where I'm fishing now. My idea was that I was going to fish the bloodworm over the top of that joker lace ground bait on the pole, because with a pole and a short line you've got absolutely perfect presentation, despite this little awkward wind that we've got today. With that short line on the pole, you can just keep lifting that bait and tantalising those fish. But when I plumbed the depth there, I found I'd only got about 2.5 foot of water at the end of the 10-metre pole. And I think with so many people on the bank, they just wouldn't stand it in that shallow water. So I've been forced to go out on the Wagler, and I lace that ground bait not only with jokers but with caster. My idea being caster is going to sort out the better quality fish. I've not caught too many fish, but the ones I've caught have been of a decent quality. If it goes very hard, I can always rely then on the bloodworm and the joker and fish that on the Wagler. It's not the best way of fishing it, but I think if it goes very hard, then it will catch me a few fish. And that's what I've done so far. I've had a few little fish on the bloodworm, and I've had some decent fish on the caster.
Well, all the best, Ian. Keep it going.
Cheers, Jack.
We've got an awful lot of youngsters who watch this programme, and what we aim to do now is to show youngsters thinking of fishing, or actually just started fishing, what not to buy if you're going after the fish. And to help me, I've got editor of the Angling Times magazine, Alan Haynes. Alan, you obviously get an awful lot of complaints and letters in to the magazine about this particular aspect of the sport.
Yes, that we do, Peter.
Now, what's the basic problem?
Children that decide to take up fishing, going into the wrong shops and coming away with totally unsuitable tackle. My advice would be to go to a reputable tackle shop, tell the dealer that you want to start fishing, and let him set you up with the correct gear.
In other words, tell him where you want to go fishing and what type of fish you're after, and then he will sell you tackle to go with it.
That's quite correct.
Now, you've brought along some tackle, if we can call it that, that children should avoid at all costs. Can you just give us an idea what we're talking about?
This type of rod is totally unsuitable for
This is classed as a children's rod.
This is a children's rod, a fiver down the drain, in my opinion. It's too short, it has no suitable fishing application whatsoever, and there's only one thing that is fit for, and that is that.
Yes, we appreciate what you mean. Right, so that's covered the rods. Don't buy cheap little rods that won't do you any good at all. Now, one thing that I notice a lot of people doing is buying a good class reel and doing everything completely wrong by not spooling it up correctly.
Exactly.
That is a point in question, is it not?
That is probably the biggest single fault in angling today with young lads. They buy a very good reel and they ruin it with very small amounts of line. The line cannot climb over the lip.
So therefore they can't cast as far as they want to.
That's right.
Because they've got the drag against the lip with the line. So can we show them how they should be spooled up?
That is a spool made correctly with the line built to the tip of the spool, and the line will flow nice and smoothly over the rim.
And you don't have to buy a lot of line to fill it up. You can actually back it up with cotton or anything like that, and then use 100 yards of good class line on the end.
Exactly. There's 100 yards of line on there, there's 100 yards of line on there. The rest
but
is
that's the
backing.
correct way to do it.
Yeah.
Now, staying with reels and line, that looks to me something like sea fishing line. About £10, is it?
That's getting on towards £10.
And this is a basic problem with children, isn't it? They always seem to want the biggest.
Yeah, the biggest is supposed to be the best. In fishing, it's just the opposite. That line, no matter how well it's made up, will not cast with the average children's rod.
And you'll
It's
also
far
get
too
it coming
wiry.
off. Can we show that there, in as much as it's coming off in coils, and that will lie on top of the water in coils, will it not? And you've got to pick all that up before you hit the bite as well.
Compared with a nice soft £2, £3 line, a £3 line, it's quite adequate for anything we're likely to catch.
Right, fine. Now then, hooks are a major problem as well, aren't they? Children seem to think that the bigger the hooks, the bigger the fish. Right?
Yes.
So let's see this one. If you put it on my hand, that is normally what you would get in a kit, or what a youngster would like to use. And in fact, that is totally wrong, because most of the fish that they're going for are small fish. And in actual fact, that is the size.
That's what he should be getting.
Yeah. Now, what would you say to do with that large one?
Leave it in the shop and go and ask your tackle dealer for the right gear. Tell him what you want to fish with. Most youngsters will be fishing with maggot as the basic bait, and there's no way they can put a maggot on that hook.
Right, so the basic thing is then to go to a tackle shop and get it right in the first place. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting an awful lot of money and having to rebuy again.
Certainly, people on this programme couldn't possibly fish with the sort of tackle we've discussed.
Fine, thanks very much, Alan.
Thank you.
What about that big tench you got before?
Yeah, that was very handy, that. Nice bonus fish. Could do with another.
This the responsibility of it? This what you call a new feeder float?
Actually, I didn't catch the tench on that, but I've got most of my fish today on that float, on the feeder float.
This is just let me just explain it through. Just put some bait in there.
Exactly.
When it casts out, it tips it right on the spot.
That's it, exactly. Yeah.
Seems a good
right
idea.
where you're fishing. Yeah, yeah. It's a brilliant idea, and it's worked exceptionally well for me today. Except that, unfortunately, I've been losing fish. It's just been one of those days when the fish have not been staying on the hook. Apart from that, I'm certain I'd have been well in front now.
I think you are pretty well in front at the moment, especially with that big tench. And you've also got many 20-odd fish at the moment?
Yeah, but they're mostly small, and I've lost 5 or 6 good fish, really good fish on the feeder float. It's just one of those unfortunate things. But I decided to go out with it early on this morning when the match started, because I knew that we would struggle on the near line, and I knew I'd get bites straight away with the feeder float, which I did, and I'm certain I've had far more bites than anybody else, but as I say, unfortunately, they've been coming off the hook.
Well, we'll just keep hoping. You look as if you're in a good position anyway.
Yeah.
I would be happy if I was in your position. Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
On peg 1, Michael Fitzpatrick, way behind now, and I think Michael's just going to have to stick it out and hope that he, like Dave Thomas a little bit earlier, latches onto a big fish to bring him back into contention. He's still fishing with the bronze maggot, and obviously he's not going to change at this late stage. 14 fish at the moment, way behind, and as I say, one big fish now is what he needs. On peg 2, Colin Perry is playing another fish in. That, I think, will give him something like 24 fish he's got now. But just having a quick word with Colin earlier on, he said he's made the mistake of starting with the maggot, and he's got to stick it out with it now. He should have started on the caster. He knows what he's done wrong. He's just having to go for numbers of fish now rather than weights. Similarly to the rest of the lads, he's hoping that one big fish will make the big difference, but he knows he made a mistake right from the start, and at this late stage, there's nothing he can do about it. On peg 3, Ian Heaps, who went off like an express train, had 8 fish straight away, and then all of a sudden, for some unknown reason, his swim died on him. Now, he fed 2 lines. He tried out the pole, and the fish weren't there, possibly because of the disturbance on the bank side. So he went out on the Wagler and started using caster, picked his fish up, then, for some unknown reason, decided he'd change and possibly go for the skimmer bream with a little bit more weight with bloodworm. But it's died on him. In the last hour and a half, he's only put 4 to that total of 8, so that now leaves him with 12 fish. And he, likewise, is just hoping against hope that one big fish can pull him back.
Things seem to be going OK for you.
Well, I got a 10 to pull back, I know, Jack.
Yeah, but you had a nice bream as well, didn't you? About a pound.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad, was it?
And you're about level on fish, but I hear yours are of a little bit better quality.
Yeah, well, I've lost a couple, you know, that don't count for a lot.
Well, I think in these matches you expect to lose a couple, don't you?
You do, yeah, but you hope it's your down, you don't lose any, don't you?
Of course.
It's interesting in this company, you know. Class anglers, world champion next to me.
Well, it's going to be a better match today because a few people have caught fish and they're going to have something to weigh in, you know. But you look as if you're going to be one of the winners.
A little bit of trouble with leaves at the moment. Since his wind's got up, you know, he's blew a few leaves off and he's dropping across them.
Well, I'll let you get on with it over the last few minutes.
Cheers, Jeff.
With 10 minutes to go, it's a two-horse race between peg 4, Dave Thomas, and peg 5 next to him, Clive Smith. Dave Thomas has got the big fish. Clive Smith has got skimmer bream upwards of a pound. So it's all on the weigh-in at the end. Both 20-odd fish. It just depends whether that one large one that Dave had earlier on is going to do it for him.
Neil, things appear to be a bit quiet on this end peg.
Yes, they're going very quiet now, the last half hour or so. Just struggling for bites now. Had a good couple of hours earlier with, you know, plenty of bites, but it's really tailed off now.
A bit disappointing for you?
Yes, at the moment it is, yeah. I hope to do better off this peg, being the end peg, and perhaps a favoured peg, high-numbered pegs, but it's not going at all well.
Well, I can tell you that the lads at the other end of the line aren't doing very well. It's the ones in the middle
that
are picking up the fish.
Yeah, Dave got a tense there, and Clive's got a lot of roach.
I think he's got a bream as well.
Yes, a big skimmer.
Anyway, you may pick up a big one in your last few minutes. Keep it going.
Let's hope so. Thanks, Jeff.
Michael Fitzpatrick with 16 fish. Michael, would you bring your fish up, please?
£2.2.
2 pounds,
2 ounce.
2 ounces for Michael Fitzpatrick. Thank you, Michael. Colin Perry with 24 fish to weigh in. Colin, could you have yours? 24 fish, I beg your pardon. Nothing very big, Colin.
No, only small fish.
2.9.
Colin Perry.
9 ounce.
Colin Perry, 2 pound 9 ounces. Ian Heaps with 17 fish. Ian, could we see yours, please?
Not enough, I don't think.
One never knows.
Not in the net.
£4 exactly.
4 pounds exactly for Ian Heaps. Hold on, Ian. Dave Thomas with 22 fish. Would you weigh in, please?
£5, 2 ounces.
Dave Thomas with 5 pounds 2 ounces. Dave. Clive Smith with 23 fish. Would you weigh in, please, Clive? One nice bream. Some nice roach. This could be close.
£6, 1 ounce.
Clive Smith with 6 pound 1 ounce. Neil Dibble with 14 fish. Would you weigh in, please? One left. Neil Dibble, 3 pounds, 5 ounces. Well done, Neil. Third spot, I think.
So that now means that we've got a different best runner-up in Dave Thomas. He's now got £5 too, and that displaces Maxie Winters, who was in that position.
Clive, you started off well, but Dave Thomas must have worried you a little bit.
He did when he had that tense, Jack. Yeah, he worried me a lot. Aye. But I had a little run after that and put me straight again, you know, so I was all right for the last half hour then.
But you caught a better quality of fish right from the beginning. What reason was that?
Well, Dave was on the maggot and I was on the caster, and I think it's just producing the better fish.
Why should fish prefer casters to maggot? Tell me that.
I don't know, when we first were on the caster years ago, you could always tell a bag of fish caught on them, you know, they were always bigger. But it's levelled out of late, but it certainly shows here.
Is it maybe that the casters get down a little bit quicker, you think?
I don't think so, it's just a preference I got here.
Bigger fish, casters?
Yeah.
Well, Dave, congratulations. We'll look forward to seeing you in the final. And to bring us up to date...
Jack, good match, all round.
Yes.
That tench, though, it just hadn't a clue, had you, whether it was going to work or not.
Well, we had a few better fish today. There was the odd bream caught. There were quite
Clive
a few
had the
perch.
bream, and the perch came in, but that tench just shows what can happen. I mean, that could very well have been.
Welcome to Heat 3 of our match fishing competition here at Longleat. On a thoroughly miserable wet day, with an east to west wind blowing, which will cause the anglers a few problems, we look forward to another good day's fishing. But to tell us about the competition, how it's going at the moment, Pete, come and tell us what's happened.
Oh, it's cold and wet, Jack.
Miserable.
Terrible, isn't it? Yes. Well, we've got 2 finalists already, haven't we? We've got Stan Peacher, who won the first heat, and we've got Clive Smith, who won the second heat. The best runner-up at the moment is Dave Thomas, and the man with the highest number of fish is Colin Perry. So that means we've 4 men round and about, yes, and all in for trophies. But I have a sneaking suspicion that today is going to go very, very well, because already 1 or 2 large fish have been lost.
Lost?
So, yes, right. But it means that they're about. Yes. And all it needs is 1 angler to get into the big fish, and we're well away.
I saw Kevin smile when he lost one just a minute ago there.
It's unusual to see Kevin smile when he loses a fish, don't you? But, you
actually, know. He didn't smile.
Did he not?
No.
I wouldn't have thought he would.
No, you used a 4-letter word, I think.
Yes, but you wouldn't hear it.
No.
No, but I think we're going to have a good match today.
Good.
Let's go and have a look at the lads.
Right. And this is a lad I didn't know last year, from Barnsley, Tommy Pickering, who I'd met the week before and presented him with some prizes.
That's right, yes.
I was quite surprised when I said, I didn't know this one.
Yes.
I know nobody better.
Let's just mention there that he's using a small swim feeder, Jack. He's decided that the fish want the feed hard on the bottom, so he's ledgering with a small swim feeder. The swim feeder means that the feed that he's putting in goes in exactly where the hook bait is as well. Now, there he is, he's putting his rod down, he's using the quiver tip.
That's the first I've seen use a swim feeder, actually, on this whole competitions.
Could well be a winning method. He's taken a few fish already.
This year's world champion, Kevin Ashurst.
Yes, and well deserved, because this guy's been on the brink of world championship wins for something like 10, 12 years, and I think he thoroughly deserves it. He came away from the Newry Canal in Ireland with a weight of £1.13 or thereabouts, which nobody would have believed would have won a world championship in Ireland, but it was hard going, and if it's hard going, this is the guy that you put money on, Jack.
Frank Barlow.
Yes, better known as Boris in the trade. I think we've mentioned that before, have we not, Jack? Last year on the ban.
He certainly looks like Boris from his angle there.
He does, doesn't he? But I tell you this much, he's fishing the maggot, and if anybody's going to win on maggot on this particular match, then Frank Barlow's going to be the man.
I know the competition's just started. Has he done anything at all?
He's had a few fish early on, but only small. We're getting to this situation where we were last week, where some are using caster, going after the better fish, and some are going using maggot after the smaller fish.
What's Frank on?
Frank's on the maggot. We'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah. Dave, Roper looks like something from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah. He's come down from Preston. I don't think he likes the weather, to be quite honest with you, Jack. Normally we would see Dave using the pole because he is an excellent pole angler from the canals of Lancashire and Staffordshire and Cheshire. But he's only drawn about 3 foot of water, so he's decided to match everybody else and go out on the Wagler float. But he's using the caster. He saw what happened last week, and the caster, he thinks, is going to bring the better fish.
And this is Dave Winter.
Yes, a local, actually now lives in the West Country, but originates from Leeds, and at present is the Longleat champion.
So he fishes here quite a lot.
He knows the water very, very well. I don't think that he's particularly happy with where he's drawn, but he'll make the best of it. In fact, early on in the match, he did lose a very good fish. Now, it looked like a tench, and it came straight to the surface, which was possibly means that it was foul hooked, and it didn't like a hook stuck in it other than its mouth.
Yeah.
He wasn't very happy, but he'll keep going because he knows the big fish are out there now.
Alan Meggerty
represented England in the World Championships in Ireland and was bitterly disappointed that the fish didn't feed as he thought they would do. Again, we've got some good pole anglers in this particular heat, and Alan is a particularly good pole angler and would have loved to have fished it, but he thinks the fish have moved out into the middle of the lake, so he's following the rest and going out with them.
Tom, you've switched to the swim feeder.
Yeah.
You're the only one using that method, you know that?
Am I? I look low.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was a bit slow, and I thought I'd just have a throw-out feed because I've seen some fish topping further out, and nobody were catching no. So I thought I'd have a throw out there, like see if there are any fish out there, and I got a couple of small perch straight away. But I think you have a better chance of getting a bonus fish this way anyway.
A bigger fish?
A bigger fish, either a tench or a good bream. And we look at it like way it's fishing. I think that's what we're going to do.
You're not getting any bait at the moment because I saw the swans swimming over your line, aren't they?
Yeah, they just knocked my line once there. But they've gone now, so I'm all right.
How are you doing anyway? Have you started very well?
Not really. I got a good fish, good roach after about 10 minutes. Got a few more small fish after that, but very, very slow. It's very, very hard. I don't know why, but...
Well, keep trying.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll keep trying.
Because from Barnsley, I'd like to go back and say that Tom Pickling won.
Yes, from Barnsley.
OK. Now, I need a bit of help to get out of here.
Do you?
Yeah. Can I have some help to get out of here? Come on, lads, let's be sensible. Wait. Thought this year we'd introduce a lady to you, and she's a bit of a good fisherman in her own right. Avis Thomas, wife of Dave. Avis, from Leeds, of course. We know each other from the old days.
Yes, that's right, yes.
What made you take up fishing instead of the things we used to do?
Oh, well, it was Dave, really, when I met Dave and started going out with him. I asked him if he'd take me fishing, and he took me to a place where I was bound to catch fish, and I was hooked from then on, really.
But of course, it would help in the courting days that you and Dave had a similar interest.
Yeah, that's right. It definitely did. I mean, there's a lot of marriages, sort of have problems because the wives don't understand about them when they go fishing every weekend and sort of live, eat, sleep and drink fishing.
But that's not the way in the Thomas family?
No, definitely not, no.
Have you won it? You're a national ladies champion, of course.
That's right, yes.
That was, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, 1978, yes.
You've come close last year, a couple of years.
Yes, yeah, last year I was, this year should I say, I was third, but I lost 2 fish that could have won me.
Well, I mean, obviously you had to fish with only ladies because you wouldn't be able to match it with men.
No, rubbish.
But I'm only kidding because you've got a feel for the business, haven't you?
That's right, yes.
And it's nice to see that we've got lady anglers. Yeah. We should have more of them.
That's right, it's
and
quite
the tackle dealers would be delighted.
I don't know why we don't have more lady anglers, actually. It's it's a good sport. It gets you out, away from the housework, and everything. And if your husband goes fishing, why not go with him and enjoy the day
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah. I agree entirely.
Yeah, it's good.
Nice to see you again, Avis.
Yeah, great.
Thanks very much for talking to us. Kevin, tell me what it was like when you won the World Championship on the Newry Killare last year.
A wonderful feeling, I can tell you that. With half an hour to go, I weren't even in the race. And, well, the last 20 minutes, I had 11 fish. And up to then, I'd only had 3 fish. I'd only 14 fish. They just come right at the end. They were unbelievable.
How are you going today?
I had a few fish early and they seem to have died off. I was fishing bloodworm to start with. I had about 8 fish and then I just couldn't get no bites. I put castor on and I've had 2 fish.
Well, I'll leave you to get at it, Kevin, if I can extract myself from this muddy hole again.
Put that on. Can I weigh that in?
Looks like a starfish.
Dave Roper, the Preston angler, who would love to have gone on the pole earlier on. You can see him there now, using a ledger rod. He's using a 1/2 ounce Arsley bomb to throw out something like 40 yards, and straight away he's picked up 3 or 4 fish. He's now on 7 fish, having taken the first 4 on the float. That swim died. Ooh. Trying again, but no, he's not into a fish this time. It's just the ledger that's putting the bend in the rod. He's quite happy at the moment to go on that, simply because he's watched 2 or 3 other anglers go onto that particular method, and he believes that the fish now want a static bait, so he's trying the same way. Dave Winters, the local man, using the swim feeder. He again started off on the float, had the misfortune to hook and lose a very, very good fish earlier on. Now he's decided he's going to quiver tip this with a small swim feeder. Unfortunately, Dave's missing out completely at the moment. He hasn't had a fish, but as we've seen in past weeks, the big fish are about, so there's no reason to believe that he can't hit into something any time. There's Alan McAtee, started on the float, tried for 10 minutes on the long pole, the method which he loves more than anything else, had absolutely nothing. He'd 6 fish already with the float, so after the abysmal departure onto the pole, went back onto the float and is now trying to add to that score. At the present time, he's not getting any joy out of it. He's using the caster, alternating it with the worm every now and again, bloodworm that is, but at the present time is having to wait for the fish to come on back onto the feed that he was putting in. Not looking particularly happy, but there again, Alan never does.
Well, at the halfway stage, pegs 1, 2, 3 and 4 seem to be doing best. Tom Pickering on peg 1 has 12 fish, Kevin Ashurst on 2 has 11 fish, Frank Barlow on 3 has 11 fish, and Dave Roper on 4 has 10 fish. Pretty even. Surprisingly, on peg 5, Dave Winter, who was the local angler, and this is his local pond here, has nothing at all. Outside of him, Alan McAtee has 7 fish. So all in all, it's a pretty tight race at the moment, and it could be anybody's, particularly among 1, 2, 3 and 4. Frank, you're working very hard there. What's it like?
It's a bit grim, Jack. I've had, I think, 10 fish.
11?
Well, 11, but...
nothing worthwhile?
They don't count, really, because they're small. My best fish is probably 3 ounce. I've tried the caster for a better fish, but it don't seem to work in this plug at all. So I'm just plodding on. I keep putting double maggot on and trying for a tench, because I know there's a few here. I've seen one come up in mid-peg. And we just got to plod on and see what happens.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
I can't see the end of your float.
No, I've got it dotted right down because the bites are very, very shy, and I've gone right down now to a 22s up to try and get a bite, you know. Before, when we've practiced on here, they've took anything, any up, you know, 16, 18. But today, I think with the wind changing and the weather getting colder, they've got a bit wise to us, haven't they?
I would have thought it'd been pretty well perfect today, actually, Frank, because you've got a little bit of ripple. The rain disturbed the surface a little bit for you. Temperature of this water tends to stay constant, and yet the fishing has been sometimes good, sometimes bad, bit in and out.
That's right, yeah.
Anyway, keep plugging away, kid.
I don't think they know what's hit them in this lake, you know.
Because if you win the competition, I'll expect you to buy me a pint again.
Last week we spoke to Alan Haynes about tackle that people shouldn't buy and tackle that people usually do buy when they start fishing. But there are rods which are particularly cheap and will do a good job. And to help me explain the type of rods I'm talking about, I've got with me Clive Smith, international from the Birmingham area. Clive, when people first start fishing, they start thinking about glass fibre rods, don't they?
Yeah.
So can you give us an idea as to what glass fibre will do for them and where they're going?
Yeah, well, price-wise, like you say, you know, glass is the first thing I start with. When it comes out...
It's within a reasonable price range, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. You can get a decent glass rod for around £20, you know. And what with carbon coming in now and boron later on, that price is even dropping further. But the problem with glass, as you can see, like, the diameters are quite thick. And when you get a windy day like we've got today, this can be a problem when you're handling it.
The wind resistance against it is pushing it backwards and forwards.
But for starters, like, you know, they'll do a good job and they'll catch a few fish.
Can we just see the sort of flexibility we're talking about with the glass fibre?
It's quite flexible glass, you know. It's just that if you made it any thinner in diameter, like the carbon, you know, you'd be too sloppy then. It'd be like a fly rod action. It'd be no good for our game.
Right. So the next progression from glass fibre was the carbon rod, was it?
Yeah,
not?
the carbon rod come in then. And you can see the difference in diameters.
If we hold those two up, the difference in diameters there,
you can
phenomenal.
imagine the cross-sectional area there. I mean, what is it? It's probably a third the carbon fibre. And like I say, on a windy day, it's going to make a hell of a difference.
So you're talking about less wind resistance for a start.
Yeah.
But you're also talking about the lightness, are we not?
You're talking about
the
lightness.
material.
Yes, definitely. It's probably, what, 2/3 the weight carbon is. But even more, you're talking about casting, you know, less resistance through the air with casting, giving you more distance.
And let's have a look at the flexibility then of the tip of that particular carbon rod.
That's quite flexible, that tip. But the middle joint, you know, is a lot stiffer.
And that's the one that gives you the casting.
That gives you the casting power.
Yeah.
But there is a problem with carbon. That can lose you some better fish. Because this is the joint that comes into play when your better fish is on. It's not the top joint, it's that one.
Under normal conditions, it's the top joint that plays the fish.
On a 4 to 6 ounce fish.
You don't actually play the fish yourself. The rod plays it for you, does it not?
A 4 to 6 ounce fish, you'll probably just keep him in that distance.
Right. Now, going on from that, a new material that's come on the market is boron.
Yeah, boron's on the market now.
You've brought one of the first boron rods that we've got in the country to show us today. So what's the difference between that now and the carbon?
Well, it's
apart from price.
It's similar in price, actually. It's a similar material to carbon, the benefit being that it's that much softer. Now, that's not so important in the tip because with the diameter of carbon, you can get that pretty soft. But it comes softer in this section, and you can get a little bit of
So
bend
you're
in that.
playing a fish now with 2 sections instead of 1?
Your better fish, when it comes into that, you can get that bit of bend, which is similar to the glass, but you've got the benefit of the small diameter again.
Again, for the wind resistance problem.
Again, for the wind resistance.
And if we look there, we can see that boron is in fact...
Yeah, it's a similar length rod.
It's a similar length rod, but there isn't as much diameter on that as there is on the carbon. And then if we look at the glass fibre, we see the difference. So, OK, let's finish off then by showing the difference in the tips and the diameters of the tips. That is the glass fibre. That is the carbon fibre. And now we come on to the boron, and the boron looks even more thinner than the carbon. And you prefer the boron?
A lot less fish.
You like the boron?
I do, yeah.
Even more than the carbon?
I do, yeah.
Good.
Dave, you're fishing with bloodworm. Just started on that.
Yeah, well, I've been at it for about an hour now, Jack.
You started on maggot at the beginning, though, didn't you?
Casting.
Casting.
Caught 1 or 2 and then they went off, so I thought it was time for a change.
Bloodworm's not proved too successful on these 2 lakes up to now. What made you change?
Well, it was just, you know, I mean, when you're behind, you've got to do something, haven't you? And it just seemed like a good idea at the time.
So you're ledgering now with a swing tip?
That's right.
And you've got up to 11 fish, so you've picked up a little bit from what you started, because you started very slow.
Yeah, a bit to do yet, Jack.
I don't know, there's not that many people caught more fish than you.
I just missed one.
Well, that's because you were talking to me.
Oh, I'm not blaming you.
So I'll get out of the way and leave you to get on with this.
Thanks, Jack.
Tommy Pickering, the Barnsley angler, who's intently watching that tip, hoping against hope that it will go round and indicate that he's got a bite. Because Tom was the man who showed everybody else the method of catching fish on this particular water today, and that is to put a static bait on the bottom with a ledger rig. But unfortunately, in the last half hour, it's died for him, and he's sticking on 14 fish and can't pick another one up. Kevin Ashurst learned off Tommy Pickering earlier on that the fish wanted the bait static on the bottom, and he's now ledgering similarly to Tom with a swim feeder, and he's just picked an odd couple up here, there, and he's now on 12 fish himself. So Tommy Pickering and Kevin Ashurst look as though they're having a battle on those two particular pegs. Kevin's had a couple of better fish, so that obviously puts him a little bit further in front. Meanwhile, Frank Barlow, the float expert, has stuck it out on the float. He's seen everybody else around him go on the feeder, go on the ledger and catch fish, but Frank's decided that he's a float man, that's his forte, that's what he's sticking with. And at the present time, he's still picking odd fish up, but not enough to put him in contention as a winner at the present time. Mind you, he's put enough feed in to bring bigger fish in, so hopefully he will latch onto a bigger fish, and he's the one man that we've got a danger with.
Dave, you've had a very slow start, unfortunately, and you've caught your first fish, a nice perch.
Yes, somewhat disappointing. But, that's the way it goes, you know.
Particularly with this being your local water, I would have thought you would have known exactly where everything was.
Well, unfortunately, the fish have different ideas. If you draw on the fish, then you can catch them.
How long have you been on a swim feeder?
About 10 minutes.
So you're going to stick with that now and hope for a biggie?
I hope so. There's plenty of big fish in here. It's a question of finding one. Fortunately, the last one broke the hook.
What do they go up to, the fish in this pool here?
Well, there's bream to sort of 4 or 5 pound, and tench to 5 as well.
So what you're really looking for is one big 5-pound bream or a tench, and...
It would help. I hit a carp in the first quarter of an hour that simply rolled and broke. That would have been very helpful.
Still, we've got to keep plugging away.
15 minutes to go of heat 3, and the rain's starting to come down again, but it's not going to bother these anglers, 5 of whom could be the winner. We've got pegs 1, 2, 3 and 4 with Tom Pickering, Kevin Ashurst, Frank Barlow and Dave Roper, who are all coming on strong at the end. But we mustn't forget Alan McAtee, who's got the little bit of shelter from the island on peg 6, and he's taking fish as well. Any one of 5 anglers could win this heat with 15 minutes to go.
Hello, Alan. How's things?
Not too good, Jack.
I don't know. You're not doing too bad. You've caught as many fish as anybody else, and on an end pig, the way things have been going, that's pretty good.
It's the shallow end. Are they catching it to the end?
Well, no better than you. You're up to what now? 12 at the moment?
12 fish.
12 fish. I think the top one's got about 14, so another couple of little quickies, but it depends on the quality because nobody's catching biggies. You've gone on to caster and you've been on bloodworm and you've
tried
changed
caster, yes. I've swapped to caster. I've been on bloodworm and I've swapped to caster. Started picking a fish or two up.
Good, we'll continue to do it.
Oh, I'll tell you after this joke, Jack.
The end of heat 3, after a wet and miserable day. Let's have a weigh-in. And Alan McAtee, would you bring yours up first, please? Not a lot and nothing of any real significance.
No. Been about dead.
£2, 1 ounce.
£2, 1 ounce for Alan McAtee. Dave Winder, 1 fish. Could you weigh it in, please, Dave? Nice perch.
7 ounces.
7 ounces. Dave Roper, peg number 4 with 15 fish. Would you weigh in, please, Dave? Dave Roper, £1, 15 ounces. Frank Barlow, peg number 3, also with 15 fish. Frank, would you bring yours in, please?
£2 dead.
Frank Barlow, £2 dead.
You can go away, Roper.
Kevin Ashurst, peg number 2 with 18 fish. Kevin, would you bring your fish up, please? And yourself. Would you like a hand?
He's like hippo getting out of there, isn't he?
What weight does he, Frank?
Let's have a look what you've
£2,
got.
2 ounce.
£2, 2 ounce for Kevin Ashurst. Tom Pickering, peg number 1 with 18 fish. Tom, could we see what you've got in your net? One tench. Nice one as well. Is that the one you kissed when you put it in your net?
That's the one.
£3, 12 ounces.
For Tom Pickering, £3, 12 ounces. Well done, Tom. Terrific. Well, winner of heat 3, a neighbour of mine from Barnsley, and a lad who won a heat in last year's competition. Tom Pickering. Tom, was it the 3rd one you won last year or the 1st?
The first heat last year.
First heat
yeah,
last year, I
finished
remember.
runner-up,
Yeah. You finished 2nd in the overall competition?
yeah, hoping to go on better this year.
Oh, I hope so.
With a bit of luck, yeah.
You started off today on a swim feeder. You were the only one that did that.
Actually, I started on float for half an hour, then went up feeder.
Did you?
Because I saw a lot of fish topping further out. Well, we weren't catching many on float, so I changed to feeder to reach them and started catching a few fish straight away. And I think it paid off, and I kept putting the feeder and hoping a few tension moving as well. And I finally got one at end light, but I didn't need the tension, so it were nice.
No, but it was nice to have it in the bag because it took the pressure off at the end.
That's right, yeah.
Anyway, Tom, congratulations. Look forward to seeing you in the final.
Thank you very much.
3 or 4 weeks.
Yes, smashing,
And
thank you.
see you then.
Lovely.
In the meantime, you're going to bring us up to date on the rest of the competition.
I am. I'm trying to get through all this mud,
I
actually,
know,
because it's
Pete,
getting a bit sticky
it
now,
is,
isn't it? We've 3 finalists now. We've Stan Peacher from the first heat, Clive Smith from the second, and now Tommy Pickering from the third. The best runner-up is still Dave Thomas, with £5.2 from the second heat, and the total number of fish winner at the present time is Colin Perry with 24 fish. So that means we've still got a smattering of people from all over the country, haven't we?
Good.
But wasn't it a bit close today?
Oh, aye. Well, it was always going to be close. I mean, Tom would have won. Welcome back to Heat 4 of Hooked here at Longleat. Today we fished the top lake again, but on the opposite bank to the one we fished in the first heat. Weather conditions today, pretty near perfect. Nice and mild, slight breeze from the east. And to bring us up to date and give us the past winners and the weights, Pete Thompson.
Hello, Jack.
Give us a quick resume, Pete, of what we had.
Well, we'll go through the 3 heat winners already. In Stan Peacher, Clive Smith and Tom Pickering. Of course, that was a cracking match last week, was it not? Where Tom only really won it with that tench. Yeah. But there were about 5 ounces between 4 anglers, weren't there? But looking at the best runner-up at the moment, Dave Thomas from Heat 2 with £5.2. And we've also got to take into account the lad who took the best number of fish, which I think is going to go today. Colin Perry's holding 24 fish. But the way things are going already on this particular heat, I think that we're going to have better weights and more fish from this side of the lake. And I think it's going to be a cracking match. Already, anglers are well into fish.
Also, it's not as deep on this side, is it, Pete?
No, we've got one particular peg, number 1, which has got about 5 foot in depth, 2 or 3 rod lengths out, and the rest are fishing 3-4 foot.
Okay.
But I think we'll still see the fish anyway. Let's face it, it's better weather than we had last week.
Much better weather. Better on their feet as well.
That's right.
Shall we go have a look at the lads? See what's happening?
I think that's the best bet. I don't think I've ever seen Frank Jarvis fishing without dark glasses on, even if it's throwing it down with rain.
Well, it surprises me because from this side of the lake, we're fishing into a shadow, and most of the lads who are fishing the Wagler are fishing, instead of a black tip, they're fishing the red tip today.
That's right.
Because they're in the shadow of the trees.
The dark background, yes. But it's starting to ripple a little bit, and that's maybe why Frank's got the hat on as well, to take the light out of his eyes.
Bradley Titmus, this must be the youngest competitor in the whole of the competition.
Yes, 16 years of age, from Leicester, and a member of the Leicester junior team that have swooped all before them, and just started work as an apprentice bricklayer. And it's nice to see the youngsters taking part, Jack, in such company.
It's one of those sports, so when kids get interested in angling, they have it the rest of their lives.
Oh, yes, and being with these guys as well for Bradley is going to be a marvellous experience.
Well, this is Dick Clegg, another Barnsley lad, as well as the one that won last week's heat.
Same as Tommy Pickering, yes, but this is the guy that's behind the Barnsley lads. I mean, the Barnsley Blacks have become a force to be reckoned with team-wise, and Dick's the man that started it all off and keeps them going.
Actually, last night when they did the draw, Dick hadn't quite arrived, and I drew his number for him, and I drew him peg 3.
And he hasn't had a fish yet,
He hasn't had a fish yet, no.
So he won't be very happy about that.
Well.
But he did tell me to say that he's not as old as Ivan Marks. He brought Ivan Marks into the Barnsley team for age and experience.
Did he?
Peg 4, David Hall.
David's always wondering about watching the matches, and I never really picture him as an angler, David. I don't know why. He's a journalist, though, isn't he?
Yes, a lot of other people wouldn't picture him as an angler, Jack. Yeah, he's editor of a course fishing magazine that comes out monthly. And an interesting situation here, in as much as David is pegged next to another editor of another magazine who we'll come on to shortly. And there's a little bit of needle and rivalry between them. But it's all good fun.
Alan Haynes. I've not met this one either.
This is the guy I was saying that's pegged next to David Hall, another editor of a national weekly on fishing, and with being an editor, got a lot to prove. And as I say, friendly rivalry between him and David. Was a good angler in the Peterborough area and fishes with one of the Peterborough teams who have done extremely well over the last 12 months in a number of competitions. He's led them very well.
He's got a couple of fish as well.
Yes.
This is Tony Scott.
England international from Burton-on-Trent. Fishes the Trent an awful lot, as you can imagine. Tattle dealer. And he's running away at the moment from the rest of the field. He's about 6 or 7 fish already. And he's just drawn a peg which has got maybe 6 inches more depth than the other lads. So there we are, swinging one in now. He said earlier on that he was gambling. He was going right out 3/4 of the way across the lake. He's put some bread feed in with casters, and he's fishing casters over the top of it and hoping that the bigger fish will move in later on.
Well, he's feeding close in as well, because I saw him put a lot of maggot
Yes,
on the water.
He'll do that as a safeguard. If one swim dies, then he'll come back onto that later on.
Frank, you got the peg you wanted, I think.
I have, yes. I was quite happy to draw number one. The peg's a little bit deeper than the rest of the pegs. I've got about 5.5 foot of water, and going to my left it goes even deeper. So I'm able to fish on a fairly flat bottom at 5.5 feet, which we think for on here is absolutely ideal. We practiced yesterday. Unfortunately we couldn't fish the max length. We had to fish at the top end of the lake, which is a lot shallower, and we found we had to go a very long way out to catch fish. Whereas in this peg, I've got, as I say, 5.5 feet fairly close in, so I'm fishing at a very comfortable distance.
You've got about 7 fish at the moment, haven't you?
I have, yes. Started off like I was on fire, got 2 good fish, and then unfortunately I bumped 2, which seemed to shift them. So I had to wait then about a quarter of an hour before I got my 3rd fish.
Well, keep plugging away, kid.
Yes, will do.
Well, after that little shower, the sun's come out, and I've taken a little bit of time off to talk to our Heat 1 winner, Stan Peacher. Stan, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Bradley there. 16 years of age, all his fishing life in front of him. What'll it take for him to become an international?
Well, first of all, a lot of hard work and dedication. I think he's got the skill to become a top international. He's probably one of the country's brightest young prospects, because we do have young up-and-coming anglers, the same as footballers have. Young footballers of the year, that sort of thing. Bradley has had most of his training at junior level so far. He's been with the Leicester team, who have won the junior national 3 times, I believe. So he's got the basic training, but now in a match like this, really, he's been thrown in at the deep end. I think that'll only be good for him, because it will build his confidence. And at this level, really, it comes down, apart from skill and technique, it comes down to confidence.
Tell me a little bit about the structure of fishing, Stan. I know you have divisions and leagues. You know, like Bradley's fished at junior level. Where would he go to now?
Well, normally you start at junior level and then go to sort of the club level, you know, pub clubs, that sort of thing. Then onto the open circuit, and there's even divisions in the open circuit where you have the smaller open matches and then the top flight open matches. So really, it's just going on to the open circuit now, doing well there, getting recognised, and then hopefully being picked for England one day.
Who picks him for England?
At the moment, Stan Smith.
Stan Smith is the selector?
He has been for 13 years. Yeah.
13 years, and he's a good man at the job, and you think the boy will make it someday?
I've had my disagreements with Stan Smith, but I think he's beginning to do it right now, yeah.
That's a nice note to finish on, isn't it? Bradley, what did you feel like when you'd been selected to fish in a match like this?
Great feeling, like. I never expected it to happen to me, like. It's just great.
Because you're only a junior, really, 16, aren't you?
Yep.
Well, you've not started too badly. You've just landed another fish. That makes you a total of 5, I believe.
Yep. Started off bad, and it's got better for me now.
You're very quiet there, aren't you?
Yep.
You're not going to say very much to me.
No.
So no, man, you concentrate on your fishing, kid.
Yep. All right,
that's what you're here for.
Taking time out at this stage to have a look at pegs 4, 5 and 6. And on peg 4, David Hall, obviously having a good laugh at somebody, by the looks of it, the cameraman, but I don't think he's laughing about the number of fish. He's only got 4 at the moment. And if anybody can lip read, then they know exactly how David Hall feels right at this moment. And I suspect that's the man he was talking about, or 2, Alan Haynes on peg 5. He's got 2 more fish than David, and Went off quite quickly, but his swim's gone very quiet over the last 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, and he's only picked an odd couple of fish up since. And on peg 6, on the end of the match length, the man that everybody's watching because he's got away to a flyer, he started off with a gamble. He said he was going to put ground bait out and then feed loose over the top of it. He did so, and he's got 10 fish, and those 10 fish are good quality fish and are putting him well out in front of the rest of the field. Tony Scott.
Well, on a very changeable morning when we've had everything from sunshine to rain, just to give you an update on how things are going at the moment, Frank Jarvis on peg 1 has 7 fish. Bradley Titmus on peg 2 has 7 fish, but Bradley's had some nice big roach there this morning. I've been watching him. On peg 3, Dick Clegg has 6 fish. Bit slow for Dick. On 4, David Hall has 5. Alan Haynes has 11 fish, and Tony Scott has 9. So there's a bit of a competition going on the last 2 pegs for who's going to hit the most at the moment. But it's exciting, and they are catching fish. Dick, you having to go out a long way this morning?
Yeah, the peg's a little bit shallow, Jack. It's about 4 foot deep, something like that, maybe a bit less. And the fish are out there. Tried fishing in the first half an hour and didn't have much success. And I've gone out a couple of rods further and catching small fish, yeah.
Is that wind a problem coming around the end of these weeds?
No, it's not much of a problem this morning. It's you know, the float's going through slightly, but it's all right. You should be able to catch a lot more fish than what we are doing, I think. Don't know what the problem is.
So you're not blaming the water more yourself?
Definitely me.
Or is it me that I drew the wrong peg for you?
Well, it could be that. I'm going to blame you after the match if I've not won, I can tell you that.
I'll tell you something. There were only 3 balls left in for a draw, and I drew the middle one of them 3, and that was 2, this one, and number 5.
Yeah.
So you didn't do bad?
Well, no. It'll do for me, Jack. Yeah.
In this particular spot over the last 3 weeks, we've talked basically about tackle. So this time I thought it was very apt to come down to the business end of the sport, and that is the bait and the actual hooks. We're talking now of what the fish actually feel and see. And with me I've got Dave Brogden, England international. Dave, we're going to talk about maggots, bloodworm, casters, and the type of hooks that you would use with those particular baits.
Yeah.
Right, can we have a look first of all at the maggots? We'll start with those because those are the things that everybody starts off using, aren't they?
Well, that's a maggot, and it's the shop-bought commercial type of maggot that every angler can buy in the tackle shop. And it's the type of maggot that most anglers set off using, Peter.
Right.
Now, the hooks that we use for the maggot is this one, which is a barbed size 20. Some people use them bigger, some people use them...
Most people start by hooking them the wrong way, don't they?
Yes, well, the thing is...
Can you possibly show us how to hook the maggot onto that?
You look at the hook, you take the hook. Now, I'm left-handed, it will be the other way around.
Yes.
Now, the thick end of the maggot, where the 2 dots are, is the place to hook it. And you try and hook it by doing the minimum amount of damage to the maggot so that it remains natural on the hook.
Right.
And so you carefully just nick the maggot through the skin onto the hook so that it looks natural and still wriggles and looks as though it's behaving perfectly natural on that hook.
Fine, fine. So
Right.
that's how to put the maggot on.
That's correct, yes, Pete.
So we can put that down now, we can go on
Yes.
to the caster, but you wouldn't use the same sort of hook. I'll
The
take
same
that
hook,
out of your way.
the same hook is okay for the caster. Yes, that's fine. Now, this is the caster, but there's a different way of hooking it because this is the pupa stage of the maggot. It is the stage before it turns into a fly. Now, as you can see, it's immobile and it doesn't move. And so the way to hook this is to conceal the hook completely inside the caster. can just get hold of this, and you can see it.
We want to make sure that the fish can't feel any hook when they pick that bait up.
It's the same hook, but a different bait. Right. And so what we attempt to do is to conceal the hook right inside the caster. We turn it round and push the hook so that it's completely inside and we can't see it, if you can see that.
That's right.
So
there are occasions when a barbless hook would go better into that and do less damage.
Actually, the barbless hook we usually use with the maggot peak because it does the barb, within the hook not having a barb on, it does less damage to the maggot, and so therefore keeps it more natural looking.
So there we are, there's a point that you've taught me.
But with the caster it doesn't really matter.
Right. So that's the caster and the maggot. Now, your particular forte on the hard waters of the northwest is a bloodworm.
Correct.
And the bloodworm is a bait which is becoming increasingly more popular, but there is a right and wrong way, even more so, to hook this, is there not?
That's a bloodworm curled up, if you can see that. And you can see why it's called a bloodworm. It's bright red in colour and it's about 1 inch long. It's in segments. Now, at one end of it, which is the business end of it, and the end that we want to look at, it has a slightly green tinge to it. I don't know if you can see that. Now, with a bloodworm, because of its delicacy, it's a very, very fine-skinned animal. It's the larva of a midge.
That's right.
And so what we do is a very, very fine wire, size 20s hook, right? And we get hold of that like that. And the way to hook it is very, very carefully through the green segment.
To find that green segment. Can we just mention here that if you don't go through that green segment, you'll finish up with just a little piece of red looking like a piece of lace, would you not?
That's
because it would burst it completely and lose everything from
Now, that's the
inside.
bloodworm on the hook as it should be, hanging down, looking perfectly natural, on a very, very fine wire hook. And that's the way to kid the fish with the bloodworm.
But make sure you're in that green end and not the other end.
Yeah.
Because if you puncture that, then you've got no bloodworm at all.
No, and it's completely immobile.
So that's it. We now know how to hook a bloodworm properly. Dave, thanks for taking the time out, coming and showing us how it's done properly. And I hope now that anglers will go out and know how to hook the baits up properly for the fish.
Dave, things have been a bit slow for this morning and you've now gone to the swim feeder.
That's right, Jack. It's noticeable everybody's catching roach, and I think it's because it's very, very difficult to keep your float still in this wind. And having watched the match last week, most of the lads who caught the better fish caught them on a still bait. So what I'm using is just a straightforward opener end feeder.
Let's have a look at it. Oh, I see what you mean. Well, it's open-ended, so you just...
Putting it with ground bait and caster. And I've gone a little bit further out, to be honest with you, Jack. I think the big fish are that little bit further out. But I mean, to be honest with you, it's a very simple method because you can't help but feed your swim.
Yeah, you put the bait exactly where your hook is, which is the real reason for it, of course.
Well, what you do is you let it all settle, give it a couple of minutes, then just tighten up. With the ground bait being dry, as you pull back, your ground bait comes out and your hook bait goes into your ground bait.
So you're looking for one biggie?
Well, 2 or 3 would be nice, wouldn't
nice,
it?
Yeah. See you in a bit.
I would be ever so pleased.
You may.
On peg 3, Dickie Clegg is making a late run. He's got the impetus because he's now picked up 15 fish. He had a very, very slow start. That's number 16 coming to hand. But he's also got the news from the top end that 4, 5 and 6 are going off. His peg's now started to produce, so are we looking at a late run for the post? Bradley Titmus on peg 2 is certainly doing everything right and is impressing everyone on the banks here. For a youngster of 16, he's acquitted himself excellently in this sort of standard. He's now on 11 fish and is still there with a shout. And if the fish move into his swim as they've done to Dickie Clegg's next door, then he could cause a surprise. And on peg 1, the man that everybody on the banks is tipping to be the eventual winner of Heat 4, Frank Jarvis, who sat there patiently, quietly on his own. There he is swinging number 20 in. So that means he's now got 20 fish, and he's pushing Colin Perry's number of the best number of fish in the heats. Colin, as you remember, is leading with 24. This is a man that could well go through to the final for the 2nd year running, not only as a winner, but also with the most number of fish as well.
Alan, you've got 19 fish. Any chance of getting another 5 to match the top leader at the moment?
Sincerely hope so, Jack. We're sweating a bit. There's a few fish out there still.
You're getting pretty consistent takes, but you don't seem to be latching onto them very well.
No, I've suffered from the Longleat jinx, I think. A lot of missed bites.
I thought you were going to say the Longleat gin there for a minute.
It could be a bit of that as well, yes.
With just a quarter of an hour to go now on heat 4, it looks as though we've got 3 men in with a chance, and funnily enough, they're all on odd pegs. Alan Haynes on number 5 has got 19 fish, Dickie Clegg on number 3 has got 17 fish, and Frank Jarvis, right on the end, who I'm tipping now to go into the final as the winner, has 20 fish. As it stands, 1 fish could make a world of difference and push anybody into the final, but apart from that 1 fish coming out, then Frank Jarvis has got to make his way there.
Tony, you were the early leader,
Yes.
but you've seemed to have died out. Now we had 10 fish after at the end of the first half, or 9 fish, and you're only up to 10 now. What's happened?
Well, it seemed very strange, Jack. The wind was perfectly for me to start with, and it was blowing upstream, and the fish seemed to be quite willing to accept the bait right out in the middle. And then all of a sudden the wind changed, and all of a sudden you find that the pegs 1, 2, 3 and 4 started to catch fish, and 6, 5 and 3, nothing at all. And I think the fish moved down towards the dam wall.
I would have thought they would have gone with the wind rather than against it.
Well, the thing is that down the dam wall it's a lot deeper water, and with all the activity that's going up and down the bank, with only having 2 foot 6 of water, they'll soon move. And I think that's probably what happened this morning.
Yeah, well, you look like you've lost your chance now. Well, into the last 20 minutes, it seems a shame after such a good start.
Yeah, well, I'm playing a hunch now. I'm just fishing for 1 big fish. Fishing a double caster on an 18 hook, hoping for one tench or a bream.
Well, I hope you get one.
Thanks, Jack.
Well, at the end of a mixed day weather-wise, we now come to the weigh-in to find out the winner of Heat 4. Tony Scott, will you bring your fish up and let's have a look what you've got. You got 1 nice fish, Tony.
Yes, there was, Jack. Nothing on the
After a good start. Well, he is a good fish, that. Will he be 3/4 of a pound?
Yes,
2 pounds, 5 ounces.
For Tony Scott, 2 pounds, 5 ounces. Well, Tony Scott had 11 fish for 2 pounds, 5 ounces. Let's have a look what Alan Haynes has got. He's 24 fish at the moment. Alan, will you weigh in for us? I think that equals the highest number at the moment. You say 312, I say about 4.
Fair dues.
You'll be right.
Well, always am, yeah.
4 pounds dead.
Oh, well.
Hey. Did Dave Hall get that big fish he was looking for? I don't think so, but with 5 fish to weigh in, Dave, give us a smile.
Banjoed again.
£1 pound for David Hall. Dick Clegg with 19 fish. Could we weigh them in, Dick, please? All littlies, Dickies.
All small fish.
pounds, 3 ounces.
2 pounds, 3 ounces for Dick Clegg. Bradley Titmus with 15 fish. Some nice one among them, I think, Bradley, isn't it? Yes, good fish. Nice fish there.
£3, 11 ounces.
For Bradley, 3 pounds, 11 ounces. Frank Jarvis with 22 fish and a good chance. Looks a good weight there, Frank. Oh, I see a good 5 pound there, Frank. Just under.
£5, 7 ounces.
5 pounds, 7 ounces for Frank Jarvis. Well done, Frank. And winner of heat 4 with 5 pounds, 7 ounces from peg 1, which I know we fancied from the beginning, Frank Jarvis. Frank, you fancied yourself there?
Yes, after practising yesterday down in the shallow water, I fancied being where there was a little bit of depth.
You missed a few bites this morning, you were telling me earlier.
Missed probably more bites in this match than I've ever missed in a match in my life. Just couldn't understand it. The float was really going down, no problem. Really good bites, and I was coming out without the caster being touched. So I just couldn't understand it, even though I was fishing well over depth.
And you were fishing for roach primarily this morning?
That's correct, yes.
You never tempted to go on anything else?
No, I seemed to be going reasonably well most of the time, so I thought it would be favourite to stick it out.
22 fish. You had some nice ones among them.
I did, yes. Just kept picking the odd nice one up all the way along.
Well done, Frank, and thanks very much. Look forward to seeing you in the final. And to bring us up to date, Pete Thompson. How do we stand?
Well, that makes Frank the 4th finalist with Stan Peacher and Tommy Pickering, and Dave Thomas, who is the best runner-up at the present time, is still in with a shout there. But we've got to say well done to Bradley Titmus.
He took some nice fish, little Bradley.
He did, and he acquitted himself very well. And a mention to David Hall, because David Hall was the only man who got the guts, really, to go out and stick it out for one big fish, and he knew that could be the winner.
But he didn't get it.
He didn't get it, but there we go, you know. But we've an interesting situation in the numbers of fish, Jack. We've got 2 anglers with 24 fish now, and Colin Perry from Heat 2, and now we've got Alan Haynes from this particular heat.
How will that work if we have a draw?
I think what we'll have to do then is to look at the weights and see who had the highest weight.
Yes, well, that
instead
sounds...
of the...
Welcome once again to Longleat and the final heat in our match fishing series. Today's finalists will join with top runner-up with the previous 4 heat winners in next week's final. At the moment, the weather here is a bit bright, but we've had all sorts of things this morning. It started off with a very heavy shower. There's a fair breeze blowing, and then we had a very heavy shower. But it didn't seem to have affected the anglers, who are all catching fish. But to tell us more about it and bring us up to date, let's talk to Pete Thompson. Pete, what's happening?
Jack, it's looking as though we're going to have a cracking Heat 5 because everybody's catching fish, and already we're on something 9, 10 fish apiece, and it looks as though it's going to join the other 4 matches as cracking matches because, let's face it, we've had 4 matches where the weights have all been very, very close, and today could well be exactly the same. I said last week that possibly the best runner-up could be shifted. Dave Thomas wasn't. He still is the best runner-up, but the way it started off today, it looks very much as though it could go.
So Dave may be out?
He's hoping he isn't, but it could well be if the fish...
Well, I stood over there and I'm just trying to worry him a little bit.
If the fish carry on coming in like they are at the moment, then I've serious doubts about Dave making the final.
Well, let's go and have a look at some of the lads that are fishing today. This is Amos, isn't it? Pete Burrow.
Yeah, he's been nicknamed Amos Brealey or something, hasn't he, by all the other lads that are down watching.
He's a bit of a character.
Yeah, he's company director and tattle dealer, and what a fabulous angler. We said last year about him holding records in Ireland, 200 and odd pounds in 5 hours. But he's quite happy here. He's had quite a few good fish early on. And he's looking forward to producing from a peg, which 4 weeks ago wasn't particularly lucky for Alan Mayer.
Ken Collins, another Cockney.
Yes, he's from Dorking, and in fact led the Dorking team to many major successes, and now fishes for Team Normark. But a Cockney again, as you say, takes a lot to stick
Wait a minute, just a minute, before we go on. Not Cockneys, really, they're Southerners.
No, they're Southerners.
They're Southerners.
It's
because
amazing,
Cockneys
really.
write us letters and say you've got to be within the sound of bull bells.
OK, but so they're all, we'll call them Londoners for the sake of this. And amazing that they've all been drawn together. And somebody did say if they hadn't seen the draw done, they would have thought we'd put them all in together on purpose.
This is Alistair Keir, our only Scotsman in the line-up today.
Yes, from the Bridge of Weir in Renfrewshire, Jack, and the reigning Scottish individual champion and the 1981 Glasgow Open champion, so plenty of form behind him.
This is Dennis Lipscomb.
From Palmer's Green in London, yes. Now, Dennis is noted for his pole fishing techniques, but as you can see from there, he's having to use the Wagler float to get that a little bit further out to draw about 4 foot of water, 4 or 5 foot of water, and he's doing very well on it because that was a good fish, and we know very well that I think he's nearly a dozen fish now, and they're all good stamp roach.
Yes. But Dickie Carr we know quite well.
Yes, and for once in his life, he's quiet. I've no doubt we'll be hearing a lot from Dickie during the match. There we go, Luke. Always on the chatter. From Cheshire in Hertfordshire. And he's already got quite a line-up behind him. Whether that will put him off, we've seen in past weeks where if an angler gets a crowd behind him, it seems to put the fish off.
It's usually because he's caught one biggie.
That's right, everybody's crowded in.
Everybody comes to have a look, and they tend to put the fish off and drive them out a bit further.
Yes. But if it's noise, then Dickie will shout them out himself, never mind anybody else being around.
Jimmy Randall on peg 6, right straight to the top end away from the dam wall, and as far away from Pete Burrell as you can get. And he had a very slow start.
Still hear each other. Did you hear, in actual fact,
the cheer went up when he caught his
loud
first
cheer and the applause when he caught his first fish? Because if you remember rightly, Jimmy had a blank last year in Ireland, and he's had to live with that for 12 months. The fact that anybody can blank on the River Bann in Ireland, but he's taken it very well. And when he got the applause this morning, he turned round and gave everybody a nice cheery wave.
Pete, what did you think when you got drawn in your competition with all the other Southerners in this heat?
Well, all the heats are going to be hard, no matter what. But at least with the Southerners, I know how they fish, and bet the devil you know them when you don't, I suppose.
And you can brag if you beat them all.
Well, is that as well, why not?
This peg, we moved it up a little bit from the last time, about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I understand. Yeah, I believe Stan was on this one. But I think this morning we felt that peg 6 and up that end was going to be the favourite. But no, we're working away.
There's good depth of water on this side of the
yes,
lake
it is,
as well.
Yeah, it's about 10 foot. And I'm out there at the moment with the Wagler taking a couple of swan. And I've got 3 6s and a number 8 down the line. And when you get a bite, there's no mistaking it, it's sailing away. And we've got cast.
They seem to be a better quality fish.
Yeah, they are, yeah. By putting this extra shot down and by fishing the caster, you know, we are picking up the slightly better fish.
Well, look, may it continue.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day. Frank Barlow, Boris to his friends. That's what they told me to say anyway.
Yeah.
Well-travelled angler.
Yeah, I've been to most places, Jack. My favourite place has obviously got to be my local River Trent, where I've lived on all my life.
Which is fishing very well at the moment.
Which always produces the goods, yeah. I suppose my favourite other place is Denmark. Loads of different sort of fish. Plenty to go at, and it seems to suit our lad's style of fishing.
What do the lads think of this hooked series that they've been asked to come and fish here?
Well, they all think it's marvellous to be here. Although there's not a lot to be won, nobody goes home rich. It's the honour of being here. And if you can win a match what's on the television, I think that's better than anything.
Gives you an identity with the fishing public in general.
It does, and it brings together chaps from the south, the north, from Scotland, we've got one here, and from Wales. And the comradeship's very good. It don't really matter who wins, as long as it's a success.
What about this as a venue, Longleat?
Well, along with most of our fishing poles, we think this is the ultimate in venues, in as much that with 5 minutes to go, you can still win. We're a bit late in the year to catch quality fish all the time, but these roaches you've seen and perch keep coming pretty regular. But there's always a chance of a tench, as you saw with Tommy Pickering in one of the previous heats.
Well, there's been 2 tench caught in the previous heats, I believe.
That's right, yeah. These fish have swung it that way for that competitor who's been lucky enough to catch him. We're all thinking when that float goes, we don't know what it's going to be. It can be 1 ounce, it can be £5. That is what Longleat's got over anywhere else. You can't get that on many venues what we fish.
Thanks very much. This looks like a nice fish, Ken.
Very nice for a fish supper.
A roach of about, what, 3/4 of a pound? Half a pound?
Nice. Well, yeah, 7 ounces.
7 ounces. You've got, that makes 15 you've got this morning.
15, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I could do with a few more. I've got to watch that Lippo up there. He's the danger today. But my mentor beside me, my personal tutor for the day, tells me I'm striking too quick on these bites. So...
is that allowed?
What, a personal tutor?
Advice?
Well, you can shout from the touchline, he can surely shout behind me.
Yeah, you're probably right.
No, he's... I'm getting some quick bites, right, and the idea is he's telling me I should wait a little bit longer, count a couple of seconds, then give it some.
Before you strike?
So I'm probably a bit anxious and striking just too quick. But just slow down a
Well,
bit.
do as you're told and listen.
Yeah, that's what I should do.
Yes, that's what I keep telling my players. Do as you're told and listen. And you'll be all right. Thanks, Ken.
Peg 4 and Dennis Lipscomb, the man who is tipped to be the winner of Heat 5 if he carries on as he is at the moment. He's now got 17 fish, 17 quality roach, and just fishing that little bit over depth with the caster is chasing away from the rest at the moment. And Dickie Carr, well, he started off with like an express train, matching fish for fish with Dennis Lipscomb, but his swim's gone dead. Now, if you remember early on, we mentioned that he got a lot of people behind him. That could very well be a factor. We said that people were disturbing swims in previous heats on these waters. There's nobody there. Right on cue, Dickie hooks into a fish. Stay with him and see whether it's of any quality or not. He's not taking any chances. And providing those people stay back off the banking, then he could well come with a late run. Again, fishing slightly over depth. Caster again the bait. And making sure with the landing net. And Jimmy Randall, well, he's got fish. He's 4 fish. It was a fancied peg. Everybody wanted peg 6, but Jimmy Randall at the moment is going through a bad patch. He was seen up in a tree earlier on, but he's sorted that out. And this is a peg that's been producing for pleasure anglers over the last few days. And as I say, everybody wanted it. Jimmy's landed with it, but it's not producing as he would expect.
Well, in this match up to now, we've had mostly roach, but they've been of a better quality than we've been getting in previous matches. There's also been a couple of good perch caught, but there was a thought that there might be the odd bream or two knocking about. We're fishing this deeper water. However, it hasn't materialised. At the moment, the situation stands at the halfway stage like this. Jimmy Randall has got 4 fish, Dickie Carr 10, Dennis Lipscomb has 16, Alistair Keir has 1, Ken Collins has 16, and Pete Burrell on peg 1 has 17 fish. So it's looking good at the moment. Things are a bit slow for you, Alistair.
Well, I've got one fish, I've got one whaler that's leaking. Other than that, I'm fine, yeah. Yeah, they're very slow, had 3 bites just in the last 10 minutes and bumped all of them, I'm afraid.
That means
so I
they've
expect
left.
to get no, I expect to get 1 or 2 before we finish. I would think so.
Well, I hope things pick up for you.
So do I.
As the only competitor from north of the border, we would like to see you do well.
I'm sure you would.
Over the past few weeks, we've been referring to bait presentation and the way that these anglers are fishing the lakes with the Wagler float. So what better way to finish this semi-educational series than to talk to somebody about the Wagler float itself, the different types, how and when to use them. David Hall I've got with me from one of the angling magazines. David, can you first of all tell us when you would use a Wagler float?
Yes, a Wagler float is essentially a still water or very slow moving water method. Rivers like the Welland, the Nene, that type of venue, certainly not the Trent, Ribble.
Right. Then let's have a look at the makeup of a Wagler float and tell us what they're actually made of.
Well, the first 2 Waglers we're looking at, Pete, are simple peacock Waglers. The 2 main ingredients in the manufacture of Wagler are peacock and secandus.
Yes.
I prefer, personally, peacock because it's more durable.
Now, that's a straight Wagler.
That's right.
And we've got an insert Wagler.
That's right.
The difference then between those 2?
Both of these are 2 swan Waglers and can be interchanged. Now,
can I just interject there and say, when we say swan Wagglers, we're referring, of course, to the swan shot that will sink the floats.
That's right, Pete. Anybody who's been following the matches over the last 5 weeks here at Longleat will have realised that we've been subjected to some quite high winds. Now, when the water's calm, we can really use an inserted Wagler and dot it right down. And we're looking at a very fine piece of cane.
So we would use a 2 swan to sink it, and then to dot it down, we'd go down the box to...
Probably 2 number 6s and number 8.
And we would be showing sort of...
about half an inch.
Half to 3/4 of an inch of the top of the float.
That's right. Now, when the wind starts to get up a little bit, obviously, because we're using such a fine insert, it becomes very difficult to see it. And obviously, if you can't see your float, you're not fishing. So we change over to this, which is a more bulbous tip on it. And it takes exactly the same shotting, but it's more visible in difficult conditions.
Right. Now we move on to the bodied Wagler.
Yeah.
And the difference between those?
Well, essentially, we're limited in the length of peacock we can use. Once you start getting above 12 inches in length, it becomes unwieldy anyway. So what we do is we affix a body, which gives us a little bit more weight, which in turn means we use more shot, which gives us greater casting distance. This particular...
that you would use in deep water?
Yes, in deep water and at distance, somewhere like the north bank of the Nene, where you're casting 30 yards into 14 foot of water. What this does, it gives us the ability to use 3 swan shot under the float. It also takes an AA.
Yes.
And what you would do is you would split that AA up, say, using 3 number 1s, a number 4, a number 6 and a number 8 to get down to your fish, because you're catching deep.
Can we point out again that there's the insert and there's a straight bodied Wagler?
Same thing applies there.
But here, we've got an adapter on the end of the float, so that in fact, if you want to change the float, that's all you need to do. You've no need to take it off the line at all.
Well, just going back, Pete, to these 2 floats, which are in fact shot-bought floats, I would always use the adapter, even with a float that's already got an eye like that one has.
Like that?
That's right, because you never know when the conditions are going to change.
So you can take that one off, and you can put that one on
straight
the adapter.
On. That's right. And in a match, obviously, the amount of time you spend out of the water is non-productive time.
Right. Going on to the 3rd set that we've got here, these are balsa.
That's right. Now, these are loaded Waglers. As you can see here, there's a brass insert. And these are for where you want to fish at distance in shallow water. As you can see, these in fact, the bodies on these are bigger than any of the other floats, but they only take 2 BB.
Yes.
Now, the basis of that is that...
less disturbance when it hits the water.
Exactly. You know everything.
I do, yes. But looking at that, you've still got an awful lot of other floats as well.
That's right, Pete, because like most anglers, I go in the tattle shop and I can't keep my hands out of my pocket.
That's right. Is it not right that floats are very much made to catch anglers as well as fish?
Oh, without doubt. I think if the average angler equipped himself with a dozen Waglers, he'd have all the floats he ever wanted in his entire life.
That's right. So those are the Wagler floats. Thanks very much, David, for coming along and explaining them to us.
Pleasure.
Dennis, you're certainly catching it at the moment. Is this because of the preparation you've put in?
The practice I've been doing, I've found that the more feed you've fed, and just kept it coming and coming and coming, and so the fish done the same. They just, you know, more I fed, the more I got.
And that is your 24th fish, which I think equals the highest in number of fish caught.
I'll see what I can get.
But they're all a good quality roach today, aren't they? Much better than they've been in the competition in the past weeks.
Got about 7-8 pound now, I should imagine. This quality.
Well, no, the things are going well for you. I won't interfere. I'll let you get on with it.
Okay, thank you.
Peg 1 and the conditions are absolutely terrible now. Pete Burrell has still got his dark glasses on. He's got used to it. He's got 20 fish, and one would have expected him to keep going a little bit better than that and have had more, but his swim seems to have died on him. It's gone very, very flat. On the next peg to him, Kenny Collins, the man in black, has got 22 fish, and he's going peg for peg with Peter Burrell. Had a couple of fish early on which were foul hooked, but he managed to get them in, even though they fought that little bit harder, having their head. But on peg 3, we've got something very, very strange happening. If we remember back to the first heat, Ivan Marks was on this very peg and finished up with nothing at all. And poor Alistair Keir, the Scots lad that's included in this heat against 5 Southerners, is struggling tremendously. He's only got 2 fish. You can say that he got 2 more out than Ivan Marks from the same peg, but obviously there's some reason, which we don't know, about where this area is devoid of fish. But as it looks, we've got pegs 1 and 2 with 20-odd fish apiece, but they're chasing the man in front, I believe, Dennis Lipscomb.
Put your line in the water, go on. Don't wait for me. I'm going to catch fish. Although I think you're a little bit behind at the moment.
Well, I think I am a little bit behind at the minute, Jack. I've had plenty of bites, but I've missed quite a few bites, so no excuses.
Had nothing?
Well, the floats just sailed away, beautiful, and been nothing on the end.
What about the conditions today? We've had everything. We've had rain, we've had sun, we've had flat calm, we've had a bit of wind. We've got a lot of wind now at the moment, and the sun shining right across into your eyes here. Have the conditions affected your fishing?
The conditions really at the minute are absolutely ideal. Most lakes you fish, if you've got the wind in your face, like we have at the minute, you should catch a lot of fish. So I'm hoping that in the last half hour that I can... Oh, there's one. Missed it again.
Is that because you're talking to me?
No, it's just one of those things. Today I seem to have missed a load of bites and...
well, I'll let you
bites and...
Well, I'll let you get out of that tangle anyway, Dickie, and keep plugging away, kid.
Yeah, we'll keep plodding till the end.
Very close to the end now of Heat 5, and it's my bet that we're going to see 2 men go out of this heat into the final. One as a winner, obviously, and one as a best runner-up. On the end of the match length, Kenny Collins and Pete Burrell are fighting it out fish for fish. I think, personally, to go through as a best runner-up, because they are way behind Dennis Lipscomb, the man on peg 4, who I believe is going to go through as the winner. But at the other end, it could be that one big fish could make the difference. It could either put one of them into the final as the best runner-up, or indeed as the winner. As I say, it's still all on 3 men at the moment, but Dennis Lipscomb, I think, is definitely going through.
Listen, you fancied this peg this morning, peg 6.
Yes, well, last night, Kenny Collins was fishing here, and he caught a stack of fish. And I really thought, you know, my luck was in. I don't know whether he put them off or the fish just drifted away. You know, he might have overfished it for today. I don't really know what the reason is. But I've struggled all day, really. You know, I just cannot get the bites.
Never mind, you got 4 fish.
Oh, yeah. And at the moment, I'm fishing for bream.
So you're hoping to catch 1 biggie?
Yeah, in the last half hour.
Well, I hope you do, because we haven't seen much of the bream on this water. We thought we might have had a couple today, but we haven't seen one.
Well, it's my only chance now.
Well, good luck. I hope you get one.
All right, thanks, Jack.
Well, that's the end of Heat 5, and we've had some good bags today. And let's start by weighing yours in, Jimmy. Unfortunately, only 5 fish.
That's all, Jack.
I'd reckon just about a pound there, Jimmy, would you?
No, I think a bit more, Jack.
Do you think? Pound 4 ounces.
£1 5 ounces.
£1 5 ounces for Jimmy Randall. That look, Jim. Dickie Carr weighs in with 15 fish. 1 or 2 nice ones among them, I think.
1 or 2 fair ones.
Not far off £5, I shouldn't imagine.
Four and a half.
4.5.
£6 3 ounces.
£6 3 ounces for Dickie Carr. Surprise, surprise. And a very unhappy looking Dennis Lipscomb. Dennis, would you weigh in? I can see why you're looking unhappy.
Too heavy for me.
Take those out by hand.
Yeah.
You may make the difference, Dennis.
£10 3 ounces.
And for Dennis, £10 3 ounces. Well done. Dennis Lipscomb, with 26 fish for £10 3 is the leader at the moment. On peg 3, in the opening heat on this beat, Ivan Marks drew this peg and had a blank. Alistair Keir has not done too much for Alistair, I think. 2 fish at the moment. Can we weigh them in?
Only if the skills are the top.
Do you think it's something wrong with the beat here?
No, I don't think I fished it well enough, quite honestly. I don't know if I even steady up here either.
Yeah, well, you've not had to weigh in as well, have you?
£6 ounces.
Alistair Keir, 6 ounces. There, look, Alistair. Hard work, very hard work. And Ken Collins looking a little bit anxious with 22 fish. Will you weigh in now, please? Because you could be close to the best runner-up spot, I think.
Don't put it in the mud so it gets any mud on one bite.
£6 7 ounces.
£6 7 ounces. Well done. You were looking anxious for a minute there, weren't you?
You're right.
And Pete Burrell, with 23 fish and an air of confidence about him, about to weigh in. Oh, it looks good.
£6 1 ounce.
And Pete Burrell with £6 1 ounce. Bad luck, Pete. You nearly took that extra spot. And so at the end of our final heat, let's meet the 2 lads who go for it to make up the 6 for the final next week. And we have Ken Collins and Dennis Lipscomb. Dennis, good weight for you, £10.
Very good weight.
Delighted.
I'm very pleased indeed, yeah.
And you sneaked in is the optimum word, as the best runner-up.
That's right, a bit lucky here, and the fish at the death, right on the whistle, about 7 ounces, and I won by 5 ounces from Dickie. who had £6.3, and Peter Burrow who had £6.1, so I'm not complaining. I've had my luck, but a little bit of luck you need in this game, so let's hope it goes on next week.
But you've prepared hard, you two lads.
Yes, we've worked together, we've travelled together, we're sleeping together, and we're doing
You're sharing a room,
quite
you mean?
well.
Something like that, yeah.
Something
No,
like that.
he means we put in a lot of
We've
practice.
put a lot of
Last week
practice,
we were up
last
here
week,
for a few days,
few
and we
days.
fished till dusk, really, to try and crack it. I think
it's paid off.
It's a little bit of luck. And
So I look forward to seeing you both in the final next week.
That's
and
right.
good luck to you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Good day
Thank you,
today.
Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
And to bring us up to date with all the people who are left in our final.
Who are in, who are out.
Who are out, yes.
Jack,
It's a bit
because,
complicated after that heat.
Yeah, let's just go through today's weights. Dennis Lipscomb's the winner with £10.3, but look at the three men behind him. Kenny Collins, 6.7, Dickie Carr with £6.3, and Pete Burrell with £6.1. There was
Very
absolutely
close.
nothing
And that
in
was
it.
for the extra spot as well.
That's right, yes. But now Dennis Lipscomb has got a double header because he's got the best number of fish with 26. So that now eliminates Alan Haynes and Colin Perry, who are both on 24, and we didn't know how to decide who was going to get that nice little pot at the end, did we? And also, we've got to mention the fact that poor old Dave Thomas has waited a couple of weeks as the best runner-up and has been eliminated on the final
Yes,
heat.
he turned up this morning expecting to go through, and he didn't,
Yeah,
in fact.
yeah, and we were all taking a mickey a little bit, weren't we? We were telling him somebody was lying third with about £8, and he took it all in good part, but poor Dave's missed it out.
It's a long time to wait for news like that.
It is, yes, and he must feel bitterly disappointed, but let's look forward.
Well, welcome to the final of Hooked here at Longleat. This morning we're fishing the west side of the Middle Lake, and we've had a lot of rain during the night. And unlike the last heat, when the wind was from the south, today it's completely shifted round and it's from the north. Consequently, it's a lot colder, but we're still catching fish, and we'll look for a good final. At the end of which, His Lordship the Marquis of Bath is kindly consulted to present the prizes. But to bring us up to date and have a little look at the competition and how it's going up to now, let's talk to Pete Thompson. Pete, what do you think?
Hello, Jack. Well, it has gone very, very chilly, but it's not stopped the fish feeding, fortunately, and already the lads are into fish, and we're looking towards well into double figures at the end of the heat. And Dennis Lipscomb's total of 26, which is leading at the present time, could well go. In fact, Dennis himself on peg one is, I think he's got 8 fish already, and we're only half an hour into the match.
Well, let's have a look at the...
We'll have a look at the lads who are taking part, and you know, we've got the heat winners from each heat, plus the best runner-up in Kenny Collins. So we've got a lineup of Dennis Lipscomb, Kenny Collins, Tommy Pickering, Frank Jarvis, Clive Smith and Stan Peacher. 2 from the south, 2 from the north and 2 from the Midlands.
So we've got a good balanced programme.
Have we not?
Good. Let's go look at the lads.
All right then.
Dennis Lipscomb. He had great difficulty in pronouncing this name at first, but I've finally managed to pick it up, I think.
A waiter in a pub in Fleet Street in London, Jack.
That's right. He says he's served me many times.
Yes.
I didn't know him then.
Now, he won last week's heat with the best weight we've had so far, and he also leads with the highest number of fish taken in a heat, which was 26. And he said that he'd love to win today, obviously, as all the lads would, but he would also like to win, beating that total of 26 as well. So he's won everything on the same day.
It's... they've got a good chance, Ken Collins and Dennis Lipscomb, because 1 and 2 pigs are fishing particularly well this morning.
Well, he's into a fish now, look.
Ken was delighted last week when he actually got through on the top runner-up weight.
Yes, yes. It was very, very close, wasn't it? I mean, we're talking about Kenny Collins in the foreground there, the London angler, who, as you said, got through as the best runner-up. And that was the tightest of the heats that we've had, wasn't it? Because there was only 5 ounces separating 3 anglers to go through as the best runner-up. And he counts himself very lucky that he got there, simply because, as the hooter went for the end of that match, he'd got a fish on that put him into the final.
Weighed about 8 or 9 ounces
That's
as well.
right. Without that fish, he wouldn't have been here today. But I've no doubt he'll give himself a good show today.
Well, Tom Pickering, when I arrived this morning, wasn't doing very well. So I went up to him and I gave him a mint. And within 10 minutes, he had caught 6 fish.
Had he? Yeah, he's the heat winner of the 3rd match, if we remember rightly, Jack. And he had that tench to thank, didn't he? Although he did point out that he would have won by a couple of ounces anyway. But wasn't he pleased when he landed that tench? That was the one we saw him kissing, if you remember.
Yeah.
Yes, the Barnsley lad, who's in the final for the 2nd year running.
Frank Jarvis won his heat quite convincingly this time.
Yes, if we look back again, Frank is a quiet type. We've always been watching him. He's always looked comfortable and unhurried. And again, another man who's in the final for the 2nd year running. So there's obviously something in the way he sets about the job.
He's got himself a nice little perch there this morning. The people who are fishing on that little bit of down wall have got it nice and comfortable. It's probably the most comfortable I've had at this series.
Yes, as long as they're away from that mud.
Clive Smith, this is the one that we always have a little look at Clive, and we always point out, look at the concentration in the way he leans forward into his job, watches that. I often wonder if he's got bad eyes, you know.
No, I don't think you'll find he has. He's dotted that float down so fine that he's got to stand in that position to be able to see it properly. And really, I mean, we could look back sort of 4 weeks and get the shots of Clive in his heat and superimpose it on there, and it would look exactly the same, wouldn't
You can see one in that picture there. One of the reasons why they lean forward and why they have to pay, because of that surface glare on the water.
Right.
It's a good picture of that.
That's
there
right,
now.
yes, and it's a broken surface, and they've got to watch that float particularly hard.
If I wanted anybody to win, I think I would like Stan to win.
Would
Stan Peachy. I like Stan Peachy. He's a lot of character about him.
Yes, he
Very
has.
quiet-spoken man with a lot of character.
Having a laugh with him earlier, actually, just before the start. He's on the end peg on number 6, and he said, well, at least if nothing goes right, I can only be beaten on one side. So, but he's going towards the right-hand side of his swim, a little bit towards the island where he thinks there's a little bit of peace and quiet, and he thinks the fish might be tending to go towards the island, so he's fishing out there.
Dennis, a lot colder today. What about not putting the fish off?
No, the main thing here is there's so many fish that the more you feed, the more you get. If you're going to feed just very small amounts, then the little fish take it and the big ones don't get nothing. So you have to really feed heavy. Like 4 pints of casters in 3 hours would be about right.
4 pints in 3 hours?
It would be about right. I fouled up that one. That's a lucky one. It's an extra one, that.
Does it count? Aren't you supposed to put those back?
Shh. Don't tell anybody, will you?
No. It was near the mouth anyway.
No, they're okay. It was caught under the mouth.
Well, you must have a chance because you're a few fish in front of everybody else at the moment, I might tell you.
Oh, sorry.
But, you know, a lot of bad feeling if one of your London lads were to win it.
Well, if they fed, I haven't seen feeding really. And you have really got to feed heavy. There's so many fish here.
Listen, I can see how hard you're working and I don't want to disturb you anymore. I'll get out of your way.
Okay.
Alistair Keir, Scottish individual champion, fished in Heat 5. You're also, Alistair, something to do with the running of the
I am, Jack.
fishing in Scotland.
I'm chairman of the Scottish Federation for Course Angling. I don't think you know an awful lot about us because we're overshadowed normally by the game angling fraternity. However, we did form a federation in 1975, and since then we've come on in leaps and bounds. In the last 3 years, we've fished at international level, and in the last 2, we've fished at world level. So we may not be good, but we're certainly progressing at a great rate. On top of that, we are beginning to find some good waters, and we're beginning to get the expertise. So,
how do you manage when you come to stock waters in Scotland? Because, you know, trout water, salmon and sea trout water, you know, do you get objections from it?
we get objections. We don't normally stock. The fish are naturally there.
plenty of them. Our limitation is getting waters to fish on because there are already trout in. But nowadays the trout clubs are allowing us to fish more regularly and we're getting on very well with them.
That surprises me, actually, because I would have thought that trout water and freshwater and coarse fishing just wouldn't mix.
Well, in many places they don't mix.
I mean,
But there
particularly
are.
in the use of the sort of baits you use. I mean,
Yeah.
maggot and worm.
Well, you've got to remember we put all the trout back anyway, so there's no concern. As long as we put the trout back, it doesn't concern them. We, on some occasions, have to remove the coarse fish and put them elsewhere while we're fishing. But we never kill them.
Was this your first trip down to fish in this particular match? You've not fished hook before, I
I've
don't
never
think.
fished hook before, no, and I've never been this far south. Very nice area. Certainly will come back at some time.
So if you come again next year, you'd hope to do a little bit better than you did this.
Well, yeah, I can't do any worse, can I?
That's true.
Well, it was most enjoyable. The lads from the south did very well, and I think they'll do very well.
How many
today.
anglers have you got in Scotland? Give me that before I go, because I need to know.
We represent now about 1,600 anglers.
1,600, as many as that?
Yeah, within
So
our
you-
federation. We have, unlike the NFA, we have a specimen hunting side and a match fishing side. So we control both.
So it's on the up and up in Scotland?
Yeah, on both aspects are on the up and
Well,
up.
thank you very much for talking to us, Alistair.
Thank you indeed, Jack.
And we look forward to seeing you again next year, maybe.
I hope so. I hope so, yes.
Good fish, this one?
No, he's only about 3 or 4 ounce, but everything counts. What are they doing down there, Jack? Much happening?
No, not a lot. I think you two up the 1 and 2 pegs are probably a few fish up on the rest of them. So you're,
Right,
you're in with a good chance at this stage. Listen, you've got some hemp here. Have you put any in?
Well, I haven't. I'm a bit afraid of it, to be honest. Some are saying this week that it's a kiss of death. But I'm fishing a bit further out. Quite honestly, I'm hoping that I'm going to pick a couple of skimmers or maybe an odd bonus tench.
Skimmers, we've got to explain their breed.
Yes, bream. I'm hoping for fish about £1 and maybe a bigger fish. But I think it's the odd bonus fish today that's going to tip the scales one way or t'other. I
Well-
mean, everyone's going to catch those small roach, but it's that big one there's only one winner today. So it's no
Good.
good coming second.
That's right. Well done. Good thinking.
The first of the 3 anglers we're going to have a look at this point in time is Frank Jarvis from Bolton, who's got away to a flying start. He's got about £2 of fish, which represents 11 in total. Picked up a nice skimmer early on and has got a fair few rocks to go with them. Frank's, as I say, got away to a flying start, not like the man next to him, Clive Smith. Clive's having very, very bad problems in hitting bites. He's getting the bites off the fish. He's actually feeling them as he's striking, but for some unknown reason, they're getting away from the hook. He's struggling at the moment with only 4 fish, but he's on a peg that produced late in his heat, and he came through as a winner, so he's looking towards that happening again later on. And there at the end, Stan Peacher, who is getting to the stage where, although he's got a fish there, he's getting behind. And he's going to have to decide whether he's going to gamble or not. He's fed 2 swims, one directly in front of him, one out towards the island, as I was saying earlier on. He's put a lot of ground bait in there, and there's a possibility he's going to have to gamble if he gets too far behind and go onto that swim near the island and hope for a big fish to move in. And the one fish, which could very well pull him back into the race.
But you're still somewhere thereabouts, Tom. There's nobody, you know, it's quietened up a little bit since a good, fast start.
Yeah, I got 4 or 5 fish after about half an hour together, and then it's just gone quiet again. But hopefully they'll move back in with a look.
I think it's happened to everybody, you know, that. All up and down the line.
I think that's the pattern of the water, Jack. You get a few fish, and then they seem to move about a bit. And, you know, you just get 4 or 5 fish together, then you've got to wait for the next batch to move in. But it's wide open yet. One big fish can swing it either way, like.
Well, you've only been at it about, what, 3/4 of an hour to an hour?
Yeah, that's all, yeah.
A
Plenty
long
of
time
time.
to go.
Plenty of time.
And this is the one, like you say, where you need to concentrate, because this is the one where there's only one winner.
That's right. You only fish for one place, Jack. You know, nobody remembers second, unfortunately, but we're only fishing for winner.
Which you were
One
last
place.
year, of course, second.
Second, yeah, nobody remembers second. Only good thing about second, it's better than third. favourite football, isn't it?
It is actually, yeah.
Normal being runner-up.
Had enough runner-ups medals in my time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope you get the first pot this time.
Right, cheers, Jack. Thank you.
Just to let you know what's happening at the halfway stage in the competition, Dennis Lipscomb at the top peg, number 1, is already up to about 18 fish, so he's going quite well. The rest are spread out a little bit. Ken Collins is on 12, Frank Jarvis is on 12 on peg number 4. Stan Peachy down at the bottom on peg 6 is on about 8 fish. I think he just landed on maybe 9. Clive Smith 5 and Tom Pickering on 6 on number 3. But already Tom Pickering's changed to a swim feeder. So he's obviously decided that he's too far behind and he's going for the big one. It's worth the risk. It's worth the risk, I feel, at this time. But the big fish are there. Maybe we'll see one caught before the end of the competition. Frank, I noticed you're mixing up your hemp and your casters. Are you feeding with that?
Yes, I am feeding with both hemp and castor. At the moment, I'm putting quite a bit more hemp in than castor. I started off catching okay, just putting casters in, and then my fish left me. And I found that by starting to feed hemp heavily, I managed to get a few bites again.
You had a bream earlier on, I believe.
Yes, I had a bream about a pound.
Well, there's nobody else had anything like that this morning. So, you know, it must put you up there because you've, what, 14, 15 fish at the moment?
I have, yes. I'm still getting 1 or 2 bites. Although, as usual, when Jack Charlton arrives, they disappear.
You're not supposed to see that. I brought everybody else good luck.
Never caught why you've been here yet.
I'll get away with it.
Peg 1 and Dennis Lipscomb, the man that went off like an express train, hitting every bite which produced a fish, but now the problems have set in. He's having the same problems that everybody else was getting early on. Getting the bites, but the fish aren't being hooked. And he's missing the bites now, and he's slowed up considerably. We were looking at a real winner in action earlier on, but everybody else is now beginning to come back at him. He's got problems. Yes, and he knows it, because now he's looking round at everybody else. Kenny Collins is watching something as well. Kenny started off quite well. He's now 3 fish behind Dennis, but the quality isn't as good. And the man that they're all watching, and it's Tommy Pickering, and that's why. He's just netted a nice roach. And Tommy went a long way behind early on, and decided that the only way he could get back at everybody was to go out on the swim feeder and possibly pick up one of the large bream or even a tench, as he did in his heat. And all of a sudden, things are going right for him. He's hitting fish, and they're quality fish as well. There he is, filling the feeder up with ground bait, casters, maggots. He's using maggot on a hook, and out it goes.
Things are a bit slow for you.
Yeah, I can't seem to put them together at all, Jack, at the moment. I've bumped a couple of 3 fish, and I don't know whether that's made a difference. You're just getting the odd bite, you know, nothing coming together.
You're fishing a little bit closer in than everybody else.
Yeah, well, as you know, I had them on this peg the other day, you know, and there's signs that they might come, but, you know, we'll see.
Still, got to keep plugging away, because we keep looking for that biggie.
Well, they're in here, aren't they? Definitely in here.
He was saying to me that this is actually a better bream lake than anything else. Did we miss it?
No, he's still on.
Good. I'll leave you to get him in.
Oh, yeah.
15 minutes left in the final, and we've got to mention the fish that could well have won it for Tommy Pickering. Tom gambled, as we said earlier on the swim feeder, hoping for one big fish to move in to bring him back level, if not in front of the rest of the lads. He hooked the fish, played it for 3 or 4 minutes, but unfortunately, as it came to the side, pulled out, the hook just wasn't set properly in the fish's mouth. He estimates 2–3 pound. That could have well given him the winning total. Now it's left it wide open unless he can repeat it and get a fish in. It's left it wide open for 3 men. Dennis Lipscomb on peg 1, Kenny Collins on peg 2, and Frank Jarvis behind me on peg 4. Any one of the 3 could eventually be the winner of the Hook Series this year.
Stan, a bit of a frustrating morning for you.
It has been really, yeah. I started off quite well, but the bite's just slowed altogether now.
I fancied you down at this end on peg 6. You know, with the island down at the bottom there tend to be a lot of fish down this end.
Apparently it's a very good peg in the summer, but it's a bit shallower than the other end of the lake. And I've got a feeling the fish have moved out a little bit.
You think it's with the cold winds from the north?
Yeah, and cold overnight rain. But basically I'm just hoping for a bonus fish now.
I think everybody down at this end is hoping for that because the 1 and 2 pegs seem to have the numbers. And we haven't had a really good fish this morning.
No, I've lost one about 10 ounces, and I've got a perch about 10 ounces, so...
Tom Pickering lost a very, very good fish. He said about 3 pound.
Did he?
Yeah, which upset him.
Oh, I think it'd upset anybody, wouldn't it?
It would. Anyway, keep plugging away. You've got a few minutes left.
Thanks very much, yeah.
Well, that's the end of the final. At the moment, I don't think we're absolutely sure who's going to have won it. There's no clear leader at the moment. What we do know is that we've got a very, very disappointed-looking Stan Peacher here to weigh in. Stan, would you bring your fish up, please? It doesn't appear it was a good day for you.
Yeah, no, I lost a few fish, but I don't think it would have mattered anyway. Certainly not as big as the one Tommy lost, so...
No, Tommy lost a good fish, apparently. The one that got away again.
2 pounds, 6 ounces.
How many fish did you get, Stan?
11.
11 fish for 2 pound, 6 ounces for Stan Peacher. On peg 5, also with 11 fish, Clive Smith. Clive, would you bring your fish up, please? Another disappointed man.
£2, 9 ounces.
For Clive Smith, 2 pounds, 9 ounces. On peg number 4, Frank Jarvis with 19 fish, and in with a chance, I should think, Frank. Would you bring him up, please? Nice bream.
Yes.
£4, 1 ounce.
For Frank Jarvis, 4 pounds, 1 ounce. On peg number 3 with 15 fish, Tom Pickering. And a hard luck story as well, Tom.
Yep.
"15 minutes to go, you lost what was probably going to be the best fish of the competition."
Yes, it was nice bream, about 3 or 4 pound, Jack. But that's fishing, unfortunately.
£3, 2 ounces.
For Tom Pickering, 3 pounds, 2 ounces. Bad luck, Tom. Peg number 2, Ken Collins with 24 fish. And must be in with a slight chance. Not very big ones, were they? Could have done with a couple of them.
£3, 14.
3 pounds, 14 ounces for Ken Collins. Peg number 1 with 25 fish, Dennis Lipscomb. Dennis, you look like you're in with a right chance. Someone says easy. I don't know. There's a lot of littlies in there.
A lot of littlies in here.
Well done.
Yes, yes. Five near enough dead, isn't it?
Near enough.
Near enough 5 pounds dead for Dennis Lipscomb. And our hoop winner. Congratulations. And the winner of this year's hoop competition, Dennis Lipscomb. I've had more trouble saying that name this week than all the rest of them put together.
I feel terrific, really good night. But I must give a bit of credit to Charlie Barnes, one of the local match anglers. He's helped me out, really tremendous. Told me what to do, feed every cast and you won't go wrong. And that's what I've done, and that's why I'm...
You also win the best runner, the best number of fish prize as well, 26, wasn't it?
Oh, he said when I get to about 24, put a maggot on and you get a couple more. And then you're right. 'Cause it's been 24 for about a week now. So he's told me that as well, see?
You're looking very pleased with yourself.
Oh, well pleased, yeah. Got to be, over the moon.
Do you think you'll get in all the local papers down on Fleet Street?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but we'll have a party when we get back.
Good.
No, my firm.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Terrific result for you.
Good.
Delighted. And so we come to the end of this year's hook competition here at Longleat. And to present the prizes, the Marquess of Bath has kindly come along to do that for us. Hello, Your Lordship.
Hello. I'm delighted to be able to present these prizes. I only hope you've had a good time here and caught a lot of fish.
Oh, we caught a lot of fish and it's been very, very enjoyable.
Oh, I'm glad about that. I've always wanted this programme to come here, but at last it's come, and I hope they come again. And I think the surroundings, I think, are good for the amenity point of view of fishing. I used to fish here once myself when I was a boy. In those days, you could take the fish out, of course, and eat them. But they weren't very good. The perch was the best. But still, it would be most charming to have you here, and I'm glad you've had a good time.
Thank you very much. Now, would you present the prizes? And Peter will just let us know who's won what.
First, the winner, who receives this Georgian Crystal Loving Cup hand engraved by David Wyman with a weight of £5 from London, Dennis Lipscomb.
Dennis, well done.
Second, with a weight of £4.1, receiving the same type of loving cup, and from Bolton, Frank Jarvis.
Well done, Frank.
Third, with a weight of £3.14, Kenny Collins. Fourth, the man who unfortunately dropped a big fish off in the final with £3.2, Tommy Pickering. Fifth, with £2.9, Clive Smith. And sixth, and also receiving one of these crystal engraved goblets, Stan Peacher.
Well done, Stan.
And the winner of the special prize for the highest number of fish, this hand-painted Minton vase, Dennis Lipscomb with 26 fish.
Lovely, isn't it?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Lordship.
All right, then.
Well, that brings us to the end of the competition. It's been very, very enjoyable. I've enjoyed it particularly. I'm sure Peter has.
Very much
Thank you,
so.
Your Lordship, for coming along today. And we look forward to seeing you next year when we again hope to do Hooked.
BBC Two's Nature